This episode of Watch Out for Fireballs is brought to you by our patrons. Patrons like Gwen Static, who did the awesome remix rock and roll, I'm a million years old, rock version of the theme song for this episode. So check that out. It is awesome. Enjoy it. Thank you, Gwen. And then also, if you would like to be a patron, go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Thank you. My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are continuing and concluding our discussion of Tyranny, the first game that we're covering on this special manageable Western RPG month.
Mm-hmm. Winter.
If
you throw in Shadowrun Returns.
Oh, yes.
Or Dragonfall. Kinda.
It's
only kind of a WRPG.
Kinda.
Yeah. As always, listen to the first episode.
Please do.
We're just going to get right into it. We're not going to spend a bunch of time recapping things.
Not gonna talk a lot about the mechanics. And there are a lot of nouns in here that we define in the generalities that you might be lost on if you just jump into the deep end.
Yep. A couple minor correction points that I have.
Okay.
One, we determined so those random encounters are part of a DLC.
Okay.
Last episode where I was like, hey, I got this random encounter, and you were like, I haven't run into one yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's something called Tales from the Tiers, which was an update. I don't recall paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
It might have come bundled with the Bastard's Wound.
It's possible.
DLC. I also started the Bastard's Wound, but I kind of got away from me, and it's not very good.
Ooh.
So I'm not really going to talk about it. The main thing it does, I guess the other thing, too, that's a correction for this, is I mentioned the last episode I talked about kind of loyalty quests
mm-hmm.
for the companions. There's not. There's loyalty quests for the first two companions.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the stuff is kind of done in the DLC. They have little highlight moments that I futzed around with a little bit that are semi-interesting, but mostly what the DLC does, and I didn't finish it, so this is me coming from a place of ignorance, but I just was kind of done with it,
mm-hmm.
Is talk about kind of the origin of the Oldwalls and stuff, which is a cool lore thing to get down.
But do you also spend a lot of time in the Oldwalls?
Yes. It's a dungeon.
Wow.
So it's a town and a dungeon.
Okay.
So that's kind of why I was like, no, I'm going to actually just kind of full steam ahead and because as the narrative of the main game was picking up, I was more and more invested,
mm-hmm.
and it was a bad time to go fuck around in the Oldwalls.
Yeah. The reason I made kind of a Wario sound there is we are going to be spending a good amount of time in the Oldwalls here in this episode, and that is where this game just farts.
Yeah, they're not very good. There's two major Oldwalls dungeon. I think one of them is better than the other one.
Mm-hmm.
But they're long. They are both long.
Yes.
So the Oldwalls are not particularly super cool in this.
Mm-hmm.
They're a cool concept, but they're not that fun in execution.
Yeah.
Which we will chat about. So not going to have a bunch of companion quests. There are two of them,
mm-hmm.
which we will talk about.
And I didn't get the necessary loyalty to get that to happen. So
I can speak to both of them.
Yeah, book report time. Sorry to leave that all on you. It just I got to chapter 3 and was like, oh, okay, all right, yeah.
Yeah, the structure of this game is very strange. It's almost all Act 2.
Yes.
It's Act 1 is short, Act 3 is very short. It's
mm-hmm.
just Act 2.
Yeah.
So no robust companion quests. We're not going to keep talking about those random encounters. They are cool,
mm-hmm.
just for the record. Like, if you're going to play this game, I recommend getting that DLC.
Yeah.
They add a lot. And then I'm not going to talk very much about the Bastard's Wound because it's just surprisingly not, like, very interesting. Like, it's a pretty bad DLC, which is surprising for Obsidian because they're good at this.
Yeah.
If before From Software came around and took that mantle, I would say they're probably like best in the business at that. And then From Software lost that mantle, but so did Obsidian. Now there are no good DLCs.
No.
So now it's all just Red Hook Studios. Darkest Dungeon DLCs are the only good ones.
Right.
So
friendship ended with From.
Yeah, friendship ended with Obsidian DLCs and FromSoft DLCs. Friendship started with
Yes.
The Color of Madness and The Crimson Court. So let's get into it.
Let's do it. So last time we completed chapter 1, we took over the Spire at Vendrian's Well, and in both of our playthroughs and for the episode generally, we betrayed both of Kyros' armies, both the Scarlet Chorus and the Disfavored, and made a move to grab power on our own, putting us firmly on the Anarchy path.
Yes, which overlaps with the there's kind of two different ways to roleplay this. Like you can roleplay this as I'm taking this for me. You can also roleplay it as these people are fucking idiots. I know what Kyros wants. I'm going to be a good boy.
Right.
And it can end that way. You just end up surrendering to him after you take all this power.
And that was actually patched in, that you were not originally able to do that. Yeah.
Yep. There was not a Kyros loyalist ending, but they added that in. We're both kind of just taking it for ourselves.
Yeah.
Which ends up making this game, like we'll talk about it when we get to the end, but it gives this game a really interesting structure because it sets up for a really interesting game. Like I was like, man, like, make the campaign like long war against Kyros game, please.
Please.
I am way into the idea of a Tyranny 2 that follows the anarchist path.
Same. Give me Reigns, Tyranny.
Yeah.
Like,
that would be super cool.
Ugh.
So the kind of initial thing that happens here is the Archon of Shadows, who we've mentioned before, Bledmark, writes to you, and he says, basically the letter is a trick. It warns you. It says, like, listen, you're sticking your head up. Don't think that I don't know what you're doing. But if you hold it up to candlelight, there are omitted words that ask him to come meet you in a place called the Ashweald in order to get advice.
Yes. This is a perpetually burning forest, which is where he decides to meet you, which I like quite a bit. Again, this is a land, pretty much every place we're going to go has been torn apart by one of these edicts. And this is kind of on the outskirts of one of those.
And kind of seeing these is where the cool, the Act 2 kind of flourish and grandeur happens. Like it is neat to see these areas. I love the blade grave. I think it looks great.
So good.
Yeah.
So we go there, and there's another path we could have taken. Like we could have gone and reported to our boss. We could have gone to see Tunin at the Bastard City. Pretty much the only thing you can do without the DLC at the Bastard City is go to Tunan's court. Feels very unfinished. I didn't go there. Like I didn't stop by, so I failed that. So I was immediately on the outs with Daddy.
You can go after you talk to Bledmark.
Okay.
And get that, which I definitely did. There's some kind of interesting stuff. There's some world building things. You get to kind of hang out with your court of Fatebinders, which are your old colleagues who you'll be interfacing with mostly through letters. Yeah, through missives through here. But you actually get to meet them, which is kind of fun. You get to talk to Tunin, and basically you have to make excuses. Like later there is a trial section that feels very much from the Neverwinter Tonight's 2 collection. But you early on, he just kind of says like, do you know what you're doing? And you can make excuses. Like, and basically at this point, my tact was, hey, those guys are fucking idiots. Like, of course, like I'm doing what Kyros wanted. Leave me alone, Dad.
Right.
Tunin is cool. We're going to deal with him later. He is, Archon of Justice. So we mentioned he has these masks. And there's this kind of legend around the mask. Like there's the mask of Judgment, which has not been seen, for hundreds of years.
Right.
It's like Mask of Fury.
Yeah.
He looks like a He-Man figure. Like there's a He-Man figure called like Manny Faces.
Yeah.
Yeah. He looks like Manny Faces.
Because he has many faces.
Yes. And he's a man.
Oh, yes.
That's the portmanteau going on.
That's about the level that He-Man worked on for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I never went to see Tunin until the very end. I thought that I would have bad consequences because of the choices that I made. So I was just kind of, it's kind of when you're hiding from the boss, just not really walking by their office.
Hour early on Friday.
Yeah.
I get that for sure.
Yep. But you go to Bledmark, and he's just a dude, like all these other Archons are. And, like, he'll mention this later, but when you ask him why he's helping you, is like, oh, yeah, I'm just really bored. Like
there's like it's a combination of board and seeing which way the wind is blowing.
yes.
Like you have and there's different ways this can go down. Like this is a big articulation point for the independence path is how much you get Blenmark's approval, because it will determine whether he is loyal to you in the end or whether you fight him. Here. And he basically says, like, listen, you need to capitalize on this. This is the character, I think, who says the thing that, like, I mentioned in the last episode, how these spires, everyone can see them on the horizon. If you control that, that's power.
Yeah.
And basically says, like, listen, there are some, like, artifacts here, these kind of cultural touchstones in the tiers. Get those.
Yeah.
Because you need to have people respect you. This is how you're going to consolidate power. I can't be seen to be helping you, but you have my support.
Yes, and I can point you in the right directions. And there's some agents, like you put the screw you put the screws to people in his name to get things that you need. And going after these is not just like, oh, you need this particular helmet to withstand the blasts of Kyros, etc. Like most of these are strongly tied to the royalty or just basically like heritage of these individual kingdoms that make up the tiers that are all fighting against Kyros' conquest in their own way.
And these three tasks make up the primary body of Act 2.
Right.
There are side quests and everything, but doing these things is, and you can do them in any order, is the body of the game, really.
Right.
If you are not in the anarchy path, you are still acquiring these objects and doing things at these places. They articulate a little bit differently.
Right.
So, for example, when you go to the Blade Grave, or you go to the Last Regent or whatever, if you're working with Graven Ash, you're going to rescue his daughter. You're not going to to end the edict necessarily. Like, you still end the edict, but you're going for another reason.
Right.
So it's not like totally different dungeons.
It determines how you're received at those places and what your ultimate goal is when you get there.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. And the anarchy path, you fight a lot. Yeah. Which we talked about. You still fight a lot in the other ones as well, though. Like, it's not quite as much, but it's still quite a bit. It's not like, because these are subjugated people. They're not just going to be like, okay.
Yeah.
Persuasion check 40. Like, would you mind giving up your kingdom? Oh, I guess now that you bring it up,
just gonna borrow it for like a second.
It doesn't seem right. But you have a trustworthy face. I think it's all right.
Can I hold your baby for just like
on DVD? So I feel like I need to pay forward the kingdom of tears.
I need to take Jay Moore's car.
Yeah. Hey, Jay Moore.
Hey,
where's your car?
Can you give me your car, Mr. Moore?
Yeah. I guess. When in Rome.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I seem nice. Got kind of a weird face. Not Jim Brewer weird, but
Jesus.
Yeah. Jay Moore. Don't like him. So I don't know what it is about that guy. He's not Titus. Christopher Titus is another person. They spell and pronounce their names differently. That guy I find really bothersome.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Just weird carriages in the weird way they carry themselves. I think that Jay Moore, the thing that bothers me about him is that he pretty much just lives on telling SNL stories.
Yeah, which is really
that's his whole
strange
thing. Yeah,
I want to detan Christopher Titus.
Yeah,
like he needs to be less tan. I just want to be like, get less sun. Like grab him by that. And Jay Moore kind of too. That man's too bronze. Like, at least in my mind's eye, I might be bronzing him like 20%.
Maybe.
But
yeah.
No. Anywho, Bronze Age.
Jeremy Irons, Iron Age. Here we go. Graven Ash. Yeah.
Ash Age.
Being allied with no one leads to these incredibly funny scenarios when you get to a lot of these places, which is you arrive and there's a struggle going on. It's two people fighting each other. They both look at you and say, oh, this guy with his shit, here he comes.
Yeah.
You end up fighting both of them.
I actually end up liking, we talked about how people swear in this, and every once in a while people do just like, there is a lot of groaning at your bullshit. Like the Fatebinder takes off his mask of judgment to reveal the mask of Blenmark underneath, and the whole court of Tunon groans at his bullshit. One of the things I love about those fights, this is general, like we'll get in this too. But is that they're not like, they don't ally against you.
Right.
They're still fighting each other. Like a bunch of these things, I just kind of stopped and watched two people fight, and they will do damage to each other. It's not a scripted thing. Eventually, one group will become victorious, and I just clean up the winner.
Oh yeah.
It's system based. It's not narrative based. the way this works, which is my preference at all times, basically.
Yes.
So there's a bunch of different tasks you can do. The first one here, this is the first one I did as well. I think this is the first one you have to do, and then the rest of them are in any other order.
Right. So it's like you've got 4 artifacts you need to get, and the first one is always the Silent Archive. You've always got to go to the Burning Library, which, yes, please. And this is the place that I went in the Conquest. I was responsible for declaring this edict.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. The way that the edict, the wording of this edict is that the library will burn until the Silent Archive is no more or is removed from it. So, the intention, the spirit of that is to destroy all the knowledge here. Mm-hmm. However, sages had some tricks up their sleeves, and Blood and Mark basically suggests, like, why don't you just take it? Yeah. If it's removed from the thing, it'll end the edict.
Yeah. So, and Blood and Mark has this knowledge about how the edicts work that we talked a little bit about last time, but like Kyros doesn't have complete control over them and doesn't have control over how they end. Kyros just kind of sets these conditions. And a lot of what we're going to do, a lot of the cool things about the story and your role in it, as this lawyer who is sent out, is to lawyer your way around these edicts and get them taken care of.
Extremely fun.
Yes.
Yeah. On the way back, there is a set random encounter where you are ambushed by a pack of beastmen. I think we mentioned beastmen last time. These are what they sound like. Mm-hmm. They're matriarchal, but they are orcs.
Yes.
Basically, werewolf orcs.
Yep, talking a lot about honor and the alpha, beta, and the prima.
The pack.
Yeah.
This is where you get your 5th companion that you can get in the kind of narrative arc we're taking of the show, which I took with me because I didn't last time, which is Kills in Shadow.
Yes. She is the prima of this clan. Was like the Shadow Walkers or something?
She's the last of the Shadow, Shadow Hunters or Shadow Walkers.
Something like that. Before I knew that you were taking her, I was like, oh my God, I really hope I don't have to take her, strictly because it is like her dialogue is not necessarily that interesting. Like she talks about really, like, you smell of XYZ and the spirits are angry. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not great. Yeah. There are some funny bits with her. Like there's a part, if you get her loyalty up enough, she plays a game with your companions of like rut, mate, kill.
Okay.
Which is kind of fun. And then all your companions answer, about it, like with each other. It's a cute scene. There's some cute scenes with her, and it's very easy to get her approval up with the independent path. Mm-hmm. Like basically, when you say badass things in this, which like part of the appeal of this game is a badass things sayer simulator, she always is into it.
Yeah.
I kept expecting there to be like a weird romance plot because she kept talking about like, you want Kills in Shadow. Like there's all this like weird rut adjacent kind of dialogue. And it's like, oh, am I going to have to fuck a beast woman and or reject the beast woman? But it never gets that far.
Yeah.
Mechanically, she's good. Uh-huh. She's the other tank character. So Barrack is your armor tank. She is your HP tank. Mm-hmm. She just has a huge well of HP. You can build her up as such. She uses 2-handed weapons with one hand.
Oh.
So like immensely hard hitting.
Yeah.
And has a bunch of skills that deal with mobility and ambushes. She has a skill path where she can gets a bunch of bonuses coming out of stealth. I did not engage with the stealth system in this game very much, but you can. It works. The other thing is things that increase her her ability to do damage and her HP pool, and she became basically unstoppable for me. We talked about this game being kind of hard. This game for me got to a point roughly halfway through this act where I was literally unbeatable, and did not have to pay attention to battles other than boss battles,
right?
Which was kind of a bummer. And I bumped up the difficulty a little bit, and that was good. I kind of rode that throttle throughout the game, because once you get ahead of steam and some levels under you, you become very powerful, and Kills in Shadow becomes incredibly powerful. She's very good.
Once I got my final party, once I got Siren in, like it really was just kind of set it and forget it for a majority of the fights. I was fine with that by and large, because I wanted to get through the game.
Yeah.
And really I had to pay attention to the boss fights, and that's what I want to pay attention to anyway. So it was okay. But yeah, like I was very surprised at how severely the power curve broke in my favor.
I think it's a function of the game being abbreviated.
Yeah.
Like I think that there would have been greater challenges, if they had that Act 4 and 5 to this. I think that the fact that the scope of this got reduced is part of the reasoning for that. And it made me think that this game would benefit a lot from more robust AI. I was dealing with kind of rank and file encounters with an order of operations, which was satisfying and fun to put together. Like figuring out, okay, like every battle I'm going to do my combo move with Kills and Shadow, which is this like trample move that stuns and does a lot of damage. That's how I'm going to get the drop on these people. And then I'm going to have Siren come through and do this specific debuff when she has enough breath. And that was going to do every time. If I could have set that as kind of a rote or as like a gambit, I think that would have been really cool.
Yeah.
And I since I was doing the same thing each battle regardless.
Give me macros. Give me gambits, please.
Yeah, macros are good. Fantasy Star 4. Early macros. Macros are good. That would have been cool.
Yes.
So, anywho, Kills and Shadow, not very interesting. The Beast people are interesting in this. Like they are an oppressed people in this, and the story behind them, they're orcs. They're generic as far as what they are, but they're interesting in terms of seeing what happened to like a native population.
Yes.
In terms of this conquest, like they're not pro Kyros, but even civilization coming to the tiers as defined by these people coming through and building cities and such are not good for them regardless.
Yeah. And the edicts specifically fuck them over really badly.
Yeah. There's a little bit of like a mild environmentalism kind of strain to this.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. But again, I just think back to the Monster My Podcast season on the on the regular Dungeons and Dragons Monstrous Manual, and it's like, man, like who Caveman Brian and Undersea Darren.
Yeah.
Like,
you guys got to chill out. We don't. Yep.
It just felt like Caveman Brian was up here.
Well, the interesting thing about that too is like you get a sense from stuff like this sometimes that it is coming from a woke desire a little bit, like to have a native stand-in, but they never like the cool thing when you look at native populations or you look at populations traditionally seen as primitive in media is learning that they're not primitive at all.
No,
like they had really robust systems and cultures and societies and stuff.
Yeah, like a really thorough understanding that meant a small number of people could like tend to just a whole region of a country.
Yeah.
There was an amazing tweet thread just like, oh, we found this fossil of this woman who has this name that I will not try to pronounce. Here's a little bit about what her life would have been like in describing just like, okay, in the spring they would have been here, in the summer they would have been here. I don't know how you convey that in games other than doing like a Nathaniel Hawthorne, just show them as being like spookily competent when it comes to like tracking stuff.
It's such a needle to thread, right? Yeah. Like you look at like Brotherhood of the Wolf or whatever.
Yeah.
Where they just like, let's have the hyper competent Native American character, and that still comes off as kind of bad. Like there's not it's hard to do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop people from doing it.
Nope.
It's not a success here really. But it's not. I'm not going to say the Beastmen are racist in this.
No,
it's not a success. It's not a failure. It's just kind of neutral.
It just fails to inspire a lot for me in a game that has generally elsewhere takes cliches and at least
fires the
subverts
imagination.
them. Yeah,
like the one of the big strengths of this game is that like a lot of these concepts we talked about that in episode 1 are just amazing.
Yeah,
like they're just really cool. Like they have a huge like well of coolness, and the Beastmen don't really clear that.
No,
for me it felt like a Brayden Cameron character, like a tabletop. Brayden Cameron plays characters like this from time to time.
All right,
and he's into this kind of thing. So your mileage may vary as what you think of the Beast people.
Right,
but
right.
Yeah. Anywho, we going to the library. The Scarlet Chorus is occupied. The library when we get there.
Yes, and they're being led by somebody who appropriately is called the Censor. I love the way the Scarlet Chorus names their leaders and their individual peoples. You got like the Censor fighting alongside somebody named like Blood Booger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like eye drinker and garbage. Yeah, the two Scarlet Chorus friends.
Yeah.
This is a familiar rhythm where you'll run into the lieutenant of an area and then they'll retreat.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I like is she leaves everyone behind, but this does not automatically turn everyone in the library hostile.
No.
A lot of these people you can still fool,
Mm-hmm.
as you head into the library. And we kind of learn a little bit of our concept. This is going to be a concept for the Oldwalls as well, which is like a series of doors and locks and keys, things where you need to get certain types of keys or symbols or glyphs to make progress in these dungeons.
Yes. And here, if you have Lantry with you, this is where he used to work. He says, just imagine the most powerful magical minds being incredibly paranoid. What they would do, like, oh, they change the combination every day, and I think they even make a joke like, oh, we probably won't just find that written down somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need to go and actually like look for these individual glyphs, and put them together so that we can get through the big barrier at the end of this. We need to search for the code. Yeah.
We're going to find sages that are still here in this perpetually burning library, who are basically hiding out. The chorus are here. Like, there's a very like in medias res feeling to this. Like, this is the chorus checking this out. They're doing it now. They haven't been here forever.
Right.
And if you, depending on your choices in the conquest, they can be friendly towards you or not, which is basically whether you gave them a warning.
Yeah.
I'm going to set this on fire. Do I let civilians evacuate?
Yeah. Well, what's funny, you're setting it on fire, yes, but the way you're doing that is summoning a volcano from beneath it.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty fucked up. And we'll find the burning library is really cool. We talk about these things that just fire the imagination. The story of this location is really neat.
Yeah.
Basically, the sage says that largely because they had that warning, but also because they knew Kyros was coming, which Lantry has something to do with. We'll find out. They cast this preservation spell, this very powerful magic on it that is preserving it in this half destroyed state forever.
They basically preserved the wrong moment.
Yeah, exactly. It's continuously being destroyed.
Yes,
but without ever actually having been destroyed.
Right. Preservation is preservation, I suppose, is what one of them says. It's like, okay, yeah.
It's very cool.
Yes.
Like, it is a super cool idea, like awesome environment. This would be really fun to explore in 3D.
Yeah.
This would be a cool Dark Souls level. And we run into groups of chorus members here in which we can like fight or we can manipulate in cool ways.
Yeah. So we find out by talking to them, they have no idea who I am. I like how this reflects on the Scarlet Chorus's lack of organization. Basically, this is the only time that the entire group doesn't know, like, oh, you're the Fatebinder and this is what you want. Everybody is so distracted because the censor has pit all of them against each other, saying, hey, whichever group goes and grabs the Silent Archive, you get to live. Everybody else gets the knife.
Yeah.
And so like they're basically like going through and trying to supermarket sweep all of these shelves looking for the Silent Archive. And you can use that to manipulate them. They're not, you can't do that with everybody. There's some of them that you do have to wipe out and they end up being pretty difficult fights. But you can talk your way around them, which is fun.
You can also turn them against each other in interesting ways. Like the first group you run into, I made the rank and file turn on their captain.
No.
I convinced them that their captain was weak and got them to fight amongst themselves. And then later you run into somebody who knows that there is an ambush waiting for them down below, and they're like, you do it. And like, well, and you can psychology them and say like, hey, do they know you're coming? Like, you can get the drop on them.
Right.
And then when you go down there, it's just a big field of corpses with only a couple survivors. Really cool stuff. Again, integrated.
They've also pressed the sages into service. And because I had a good reputation with the sages, I could just say, hey, you outnumber them. Do you guys want to help me kill them? Yeah, sure. And then you have a bunch of casters on your side.
Really, really neat. And one of the things that I think is cool about the anarchy path of this, because I think that one of the things that Tyranny has a reputation for is having like kind of one good path and then all other flavors of evil. But really the anarchy path, like I was in pretty good shape with most of the like communities here.
Yeah.
Like people liked me here. They just didn't like Kyros and I didn't like them. Like you can do anarchy and not be a despot.
Yeah.
You know, a despot. Like you can, there is a fiction, and we don't actually get to see the end of it. We'll talk about how this game ends, but the, in the fiction, in your head fiction, you could be like, yeah, I'm not going to like just subjugate these people.
No.
I'm taking over, but I'm going to lead a rebellion against Kyros.
Yeah.
Like as such, but I just want to be the boss. It's not going to be a democracy with, the council of different people here.
No.
Like there is a shade of gray you get to take in the anarchist path. If you choose to. And it's down to these individual little flavor things. Like the actual big choices you make are always taking power for yourself. But if everyone likes you, if you're treating everyone fairly and they like you, there is like an enlightened kind of dictator element that is like a third path for this.
Yeah. So you're going to hear me like I worked very hard to spare the sages in this, and I even made that choice in the beginning. Like that doesn't line up with talking about this is a fun game to be deliciously evil. The way that I looked at it was like, well, what if I need them later? Like they're no use to me dead. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Who wants to rule over? You don't want to rule over the Ashfield.
No.
Like the idea is you don't want to rule over a kingdom of ashes. You want to, and that even comes down later when you start, spoiler, proclaiming edicts. Like I still do it, but I'm like, which of these is going to be the least destructive? Because I'm ultimately planning to live here.
Yeah.
Like how much do I want to shit in my backyard?
Yeah.
How easy do I want it to be to clean up this shit?
Yeah. Can I do a controlled burn to take out this this wall?
Shit.
Yeah.
Can I do a controlled, a funneled shit? Can I do the Play-Doh Fun Factory shit?
God damn it.
Onto the specific yard? Can I do a crescent moon?
Yuck.
I mean, it's not that gross.
No,
it's natural, Cole. It's actually one of the least natural things I could think of. It's an abomination. It's God's mistake. Like no one should do it.
I'm just letting you talk.
Take it back. I repent. I'm so sorry. Anywho. So that's basically the path I took as well through this. You get a bunch of scrolls here. There's an interesting thing where you will find doodads in the environment, and if you have high enough lore or if you have Lantry with you, you can get things that are keys to get into other parts of the dungeon, but also you can start getting spell components and such from here. Like this is a library. It has knowledge in it. Like these environments tend to be not just kind of grab bags of everything that they can be. Like they are specific. There's a sense of place.
Yeah. I can see being a melee focused character and coming here and being like, well, that's everything here is for casters. Because I was playing as a caster, this was, a really good first stop because it did widen my vocabulary to a degree.
Even if you're a melee, I was a melee character, but I still had casters with me.
Yeah.
It's a team effort. Like, and I needed my casters to have good spells. So, you eventually get down to the basement, where you see the Silent Archive. It's surrounded by this, by lava in the middle of this volcano. Basically, it's a floating scroll. Yeah. Here. And the idea is this is all of the knowledge. Like it is like a billion books. This is a Kindle.
Yes.
The silent Kindle.
Yeah, it is the silent Kindle. I don't know if it is with or without special promotions, but it's kind of neat because it's the internet. It is a Kindle. It is the internet. You can speak things to it. You can make queries. And it will surface, like on the scroll will appear the relevant things. And this is how it talks to you. Like you ask it questions and it pulls up like, oh, the so-and-so sage said, hey, can we stop by the bathroom? I need to drain some ink. That's not what he says, but like it is very funny how they frame this as dialogue, and it is speaking to you in quotes and passages from these sages who had been gathering all of the knowledge over the centuries. And you can see why Kyros, who wants to keep people from attaining the same amount of power that she has, would want this thing burned.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like that's what we talked about that last episode too, like figuring out why Kyros has these rules in place that are ancient, that are hundreds of years old, and then figuring out like, oh, this is to consolidate power.
Yes. Because
it is a game about power. So you have you can it's a load-bearing scroll. It will will blow
They
up.
say like you take the scroll and Lantry says that's a load-bearing scroll.
Yes. Really, really good.
I don't like this clown.
Yeah. And this collapses the library. Yeah. And the idea is you're losing a lot of knowledge this way. Like the scroll doesn't have everything, and it will take forever to decipher and learn how to use. It'll take a long time. So you're still losing something by taking this. The world is losing something, but you got a cool artifact.
Yeah.
And this introduces, you can equip it. It's not just for flavor. Any of the artifacts you get are useful. Some of them are useful till the end game.
Right.
And they have renown abilities, which are cool, unique abilities that the more you use the item, and if you talk about it, it gets renown, and the items themselves actually level up.
Yeah. I love how even the items have reputations.
Yes, the game about power, like the perception of power.
Yeah,
that's the theme.
Very good.
So, yeah.
And boy, do I love dicking around people who write me asking about this thing.
Dude, yeah. There's a lot of like nerds.
Yeah,
your group of Fatebinder nerds who are just like, so did you really do this? And you can be.
I burned it to cinders.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did it. I went to my shithole with it. Goodbye, Crescent Moon. And then the like, you can just and then they really flip out. Like there's Rogellis or whatever. It's really fun because you can start off kind of coy, like, oh, I learned a lesson from you. I'm not telling. And he's like, haha, the student has learned. But really, seriously, tell me. And you're like, no, I burned it, you idiot. And then he gets so mad. Like he plays along with you for a while. But fuck those guys. Even though their approval can help you during the trial scene.
Yes.
So having Fatebinder bros can be useful.
No, I burned all those bridges. My trial didn't turn out very good.
My first time I played it did. This time I fucked it up.
Oh, yeah.
So it was interesting. I thought I was basically in the exact same footprints as last time, but this time I goofed.
Yeah.
So you take this back to Blood and Mark. In between these things, you can go back to Blood and Mark each time and get your next mission. It's kind of irritating. You can't just go do them all. You get to ask about them one at a time.
Yeah.
Which is always a minor bugbear to me. But you go back and and the other thing too is this breaks the edict, which fills you with power. Like whenever you break an edict, which happened before, you are getting power. You get a little message as your power has increased.
Yes.
So destroying this thing has given you a version of it. That won't pay off for a while. But ending these edicts is actually increasing your literal power, not just your perceived power.
Right. You're taking them into yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is where he gives you the three options, right? This is where it branches out just a little bit. We've got to go get those relics. And I pretty much just did these in the order that he presented them to me, figuring, hey, maybe they would be difficulty ranked or whatever. It's kind of like how in Dragon Age Origins they say, like, they list the dwarf passage last or something like that. So I decided to go after a sword named Dauntless first.
Yep. Which starts the quest Stirring Visions. Here.
Yeah.
And this is this other Stirring Visions is this other kind of side quest, which is getting other towers.
Yes.
We talked about that a little bit in the last episode, how you assign each tower a specialty. In this. So as you're doing these things, you're going to want to find towers that you can then claim for yourself.
Right. Yeah. So this is going to be like a little bit of a side thing, but we're going to want another one of these so we can get the library and stuff set up, Yeah. So when you inspect your own spire, you can, basically leave your body and inspect the land and see where this other spire is. It's in Lethian's Crossing. This was really important for me in the conquest. I had, chosen to come here and manage this because it had all this iron. And I did not agree with the disfavor, but I ended up leaving the disfavor there. That's going to be pretty important for this. So I decided to head over that way. It's not just the disfavored though. There is a local group called the Bronze Brotherhood that are here, running Lethian's Crossing and exacting a toll.
Yes,
on the roads.
Within the Bronze Brotherhood. So this is a group of mercenaries that were employed by Kyros, but have kind of gone independent.
Right.
And within them there is a power struggle. So there is an old leader who is named after like a Pokemon. This is Raytomon, who sounds like he's like that one Pokemon that's a dryer.
Right.
Who's there, but there's an upstart who actually believes in the mission. The implication is that Raytomon has kind of lost his mind.
Right.
Here, and they're set up in opposition of the forge bound kind of your blacksmith people here. So these people had to go.
Yeah.
I was not on the Bronze Brotherhood side, but you can side with them. And they are not, you can basically win them over. Not Rotomon, but the successor of Rotomon. Right. But basically, no Bronze Brotherhood in my kingdom.
Yeah, the Bronze Brotherhood we're going to see later on, like one of these missions, surrounds them. Not only is Rotomon a, completely off his noggin, that isn't a phrase, but I've made it one now. But yeah, just that they are as disorganized and just shitty as any of Kyros' armies. Like, nope. You're not going to get in line, so good.
really entitled.
Yes.
And to it, they have, they don't totally not have a point. Like when in the Conquest, they lived here. They were assigned protectors of this area, and they lived here.
Uh-huh.
Like this was their home. And I just basically said, you don't have a job anymore. You gotta go. So they're upset, kind of rightfully.
Yeah, you pulled their contract, but
exactly. It's at will employment.
This is the kingdom I have designed.
Yeah, exactly. It's all the worst things about the real world. Yeah. I brought into this fantasy universe.
Oh man. But despite that bitterness, I get them to reluctantly let me pass. I get that permission. So for me, I got to Lethian's Crossing and the disfavored attacked me. Like, oh, look who decided to show his face.
Yeah.
Who did you have here?
Also disfavored, because it's whoever you put in charge.
Yeah.
During the Conquest, my Conquest was heavily disfavored, favored, because I was trying to do something different than the first time I played.
Right.
So, and of course, when we went to the Burning Library, the Scarlet Chorus didn't know who you were yet. But of course, the disfavored have received briefings on you, right? Like, no disfavored are going to be surprised at who you are, because that's their organizational structure.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to fight a couple of them. It's fairly minor, just like a small encounter. Take them out, and then you move out throughout the town. This is basically your town. Mm-hmm. This is the town in the game.
Yes.
There are a bunch of merchants. There are 3 tiers to this and 2 waterfalls. Like, it's kind of a cool layout, shaped kind of like 3 horseshoes stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
Throughout here, and there's some useful merchants and stuff that you do, and as well as kind of its own story for this area. The thing about this, like, it's, by tier standards, this is a metropolis. By empire standards, this is a squalid hellhole.
Right.
Like, this is the biggest game in town in this area, but this is kind of a backwoods area.
It's the biggest game we have left after we destroyed the bastard city.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, you get a little bit of history. Like, the mayor of this place is Lethian's son. We'll talk to you about this. And you learn basically, like, I noticed Lethian was this really powerful trader. You control this juncture of the Oldwalls and these rivers, and all of a sudden you have a nexus of power. Cool. And there's a spire just sitting right in the middle of this, and that's where you want to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to go grab that. Once you go inside, there's this kind of puzzle that is for the spires, where you go around getting rubbings of these glyphs, and then you have to complete them to activate the spire.
Right.
Through here, and kind of like walking on the floor, like a labyrinth, like one of those shitty labyrinths that they have at colleges that don't have walls.
Heartbreaking. I went and looked online. I was like, I would like to go and go into a
maze me.
Maze me, please. Are there corn mazes that are set up? I bet you that's a thing that happens in Ohio. Like, where is a hedge maze? And I found like a resource. It was like, the labyrinth and maze database, and everything is those shitty labyrinths.
Yep.
Which is just a path that is, on the floor.
There are no walls.
Right.
It's a labyrinth. It's like a cheat code.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to no-clip my way through
there are no choices. It's just a very winding path. Like, it is the longest path that you can walk in this confined area. It's bullshit, Gary.
It's like the space equivalent of the stick and hoop. Like, who is entertained by this? Like, what if you doubled back a few times?
They say it's for meditation. Fuck that.
Yeah, no, go sit on attack meditation. I not interested. Those things suck. We had one of them at the college I worked at in Illinois, and it was like, this thing is so fucking lame.
Yeah.
So anywho, that's kind of what these things are a little bit like. I mean, these are cool looking. Yeah. Like, I like the way these look. These are a fun little change of pace. They're not challenging.
No, just you're just inputting a passcode really to activate the spire and get up to the roof and claim it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's part of your collection now, and you can start diversifying. You can start specializing each of these and hiring your dudes and such.
Yep. This first one I made into a forge because it made sense for Lethian's Crossing.
Yep.
And because I was a warrior character. And this allows you to engage with the crafting system in the game, which is fairly like unoffensive. For subsystem games, I generally don't love that much.
Yeah.
You just kind of get recipes, but I had materials were in supply. The fact that you can access your stash from anywhere, which we didn't talk about last episode, but inventory management isn't really a thing in this game. They kind of made it easy, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
You just put everything into an Omni stash and you always have access to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I looked at the stuff that I had available, and I didn't see like anything craftable that was better or like a different use than the items that I was just finding, and that is usually the problem with crafting in this kind of game.
Well, you have to. So this synergizes with the library. The library is how you're going to get your recipes, and then you can start getting some pretty badass shit. Yeah. This on its own is less good. It's just kind of a good store. Yeah. You can also improve weapons. Weapons and armor can be upgraded, which if you're using Barrick is really necessary because his armor is not
right.
He can't change it until you do a side quest.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. This unlocks another side quest, Seats of Power. This is just the collection quest for the remaining 3 spires. We're going to go buy all of these over the course of chapter 2 here.
Yep. Moving on to the Undaunted, we go to the Blade Grave, which is the remains of a land called Stalwart, which was ravaged by the Edict of Storms, which is a series of nouns.
It's a series of nouns that represent something that I love so goddamn much.
Yeah, the Edict of Storms is incredible, and this area looks so neat.
It's so good.
It's visually very striking.
It is torn apart by something called the Rust Storm.
Yep. And it is full of just armor. Like this storm has gone through and stripped the flesh from all of these soldiers, leaving their armor and weapons.
Yeah. So picture, like instead of, sediment or what have you, instead of, rocks being left, over the course of millennia as little bits of rock are dropped there and they put together. No, you have these mountains and spires that are made up of all of the accumulated and rusted metal that the storm has just basically dashed against these surfaces. So like everything.
Once contained humans.
Yes.
That are now have been sheared down to nothing by sand and rust.
Yes.
In the wind.
Mm-hmm. This is what got Barrick. Barrick was here at this battle. The Edict of Storms is, what fused him into the suit. So you can get a little bit of information about that from him here as he responds to it.
Yeah. This is also, we run into actually a couple of these in the Burning Library, but it makes sense to talk about them here.
Yeah.
Running into the Bane. The Bane are what live in the Oldwalls. They're like an ancient evil force. They're basically elementals, but without an elemental affiliation.
Right.
Like I also have them as elementals too in my mind. Like they're coded as such, but it's not like this is a fire Bane.
Right.
It's like there are different classes. There's like a melee Bane, a caster Bane, a small like weak Bane. They're just kind of levels. They're visually uninteresting. They're kind of like swaths of color with armor floating in them. Or like little suggestions of bodies. And it's probably, this whole bit, fighting these things is the weakest part of the game. They're not that interesting to fight.
Right.
Narratively or mechanically. Yeah. And they are what you fight in the Oldwalls generally.
Right.
Those 2 major dungeons in the Oldwalls that you spend a lot of time with these guys, it is a bummer.
It is a real bummer. Like the wrinkle that they add to combat, at least what I noticed, is that they've just got different immunities. Compared to everybody else. You deal a lot of different kinds of damage in this, slashing, piercing, crushing, different things. And it kind of seemed that no matter what I did, one of my guys was always like, this isn't working. I'm like, like just complaining about their weapons doing nothing. And just like, I've got to change my gear. That isn't necessarily an interesting tactical choice you have to make. That's just kind of a menu tax as opposed to like changing the order of operations as you approach an encounter. So I was real bummed out by these guys. I wish that they were a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, these are not great. They should be also like, I didn't do the menu tax. I just kind of powered through it. Yeah. So it meant, early on, these are hard encounters. Like at this point in the game, because I haven't crossed that tipping point of being so powerful, these are still hard encounters. Eventually, they become pretty easy. Just like basically everything. Like my guys who could hit them hard enough that it didn't matter that some of my guys were ineffectual. Versus them. They pierce through your armor as well. Yeah. You don't have great resistance against them. I don't mind these as an idea, but I do feel like this is like really, really unfulfilled potential. Yeah. It's probably like if you had to name, even the Oldwalls are cool enough in concept, and I am not opposed to a dungeon. Like the reason why the Oldwalls kind of suck is because they're full of these things. Yeah. Yeah. This is probably the worst part of these games are the Bane. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yep.
Yeah, and also it's capitalized, so I think it's the Batman villain. That sounds like a joke, but I see that and I think of Tom Hardy in The Mask. Like, just
Yeah, Tom Hardy, and also
Tom Hardy
DVD,
starring
The
in
Mask.
a remake of The Mask.
Sure. After
Smoker.
Venom, I believe it. He's basically he's got a lot of that energy, weird, nervous, giggling energy in that. Noted good movie Venom.
Yeah.
After you fight them, Unbroken Scout, who's there, grabs your attention, named Janos.
Right. Janos is here, and we get the rundown. So, like, this Edict of Storms is going to remain in effect until the last region of Stalwart is gone. The ruler of Stalwart, who is kind of Janos, basically just says, he's back there playing king. They're at at this fortress, the center of the storm, behind the storm wall, pretending that there's even still a kingdom for them to rule.
Yeah.
And the army of Stalwart is this faction called the Unbroken, and their leader Matthias is off searching for Dauntless as well. So it's a little bit of a race to find this sword, which is incredibly important to the kingdom of Stalwart. There's no kingdom right now.
And I like how you get to do kind of two goals at once.
Yeah.
During this, like, yes, I'm looking for the Dauntless, but also I want to end this edict. Like, I think that it's a weird way this game benefits from being compressed.
Yeah.
If this were, if they had just made this as long as they wanted to, it's possible these would be in different locations.
Yeah.
And stuff, but there is a feeling of like multitasking that comes with this game that I like.
Yeah. Like on this path, you don't even have to go. You don't even have to mess with Stratus. Or the Edict of Storms. I just did it because I don't know. I wanted that castle.
Yeah, of course, I'm going to end edicts.
Yeah.
Because that's why I'm here, and doing it benefits you later.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know at the time, but of course I was going to do it. And it's a cool, really great moment in lawyering.
Oh, yeah.
Here. So, yeah. So you go to the fort here, Duskwatch Fort, to find the leader of the Unbroken, to find more information on Matthias and Stratus. They won't let you in at this point, because you're not. And if you were allied, if you had made different choices, it's possible you can get in, but you still have to fight eventually.
Right.
Here, so it lets you avoid some fights. I think that if you are with the disfavored, you sneak into the here. Which ends up being a weird like stealth mission, which is really strange for this game.
Oh, weird.
And just reading about it, I have not done it. Otherwise, though, you just kind of bust your way in.
Yeah. I imagine if you're on the rebellion path, they'll let you in because you're here to,
Yep. But I'm sure some disfavored show up to fight you.
Right.
In that case. Yeah. So there's still going to be fights. It's just a matter of degrees. So there's not a pacifist run of Tyranny.
Right.
It's not that level of Obsidian.
It's so weird.
It'd be really weird.
Yeah.
Very strange. Just you can just let your companions kill everybody.
Oh yeah.
Just hang out.
I'm not touching you.
I'm here buffing. I'm just off in the corner buffing. Yeah. So you talk to this disfavored prisoner that they have there as you're clearing this out, and other disfavored soldiers come in. At this point, they ask you to surrender the fort. You do have an option here; you can do it, but if not, you take them out.
Right.
I don't surrender for anything. And then you kind of bully the prisoner into figuring out what's going on here. The prisoner was charged with protecting Graven Ash's daughter, who was taken in battle with the Unbroken before the Edict of Storm, like during that battle.
Right.
But before she could get fused to an armor or whatever. And he says basically like, the daughter and the sword are probably in the Rust Canyon.
Right.
That is probably where they're at. And then for his service, I slit his throat.
Of course.
Let's fuck the disfavored.
Yeah. You can't go back. You're just going to spread word.
Yep.
Not the thing. So this takes us into the next phase of this branch here, Relic Hunter, where you can go to Rust Canyon. Here I found a disfavored soldier basically just harassing an Unbroken leader, this lieutenant, who is guarding the gate. I imagine if I was with the disfavored, I could work with them to get inside of this camp. But instead I just killed all of the disfavored and then raised the fort because I had no other option. The Unbroken were not going to work with me. Yeah.
Yep. And the idea here is they've had a siege for a while.
Yeah.
This disfavored soldier has been trying to get in. They've been mocking each other. Yeah. It is a siege. So
you're just mocking her across this big field of his fallen comrades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because the disfavored are not great.
No.
Not good at war.
No.
So. No.
Daddy will protect me. Fuck you.
No, he won't. Not for long. So eventually, once you get through everyone, she will surrender to you. She mentions where Mateus is.
Mhm.
He is in a place called Trapper's Junction. He talks about how they're trying to find something called the Steadfast Insignia, which is in the breach of the old walls, and that is what's going to allow you to get past the storm,
Right.
to get in to where the last heir is.
Yes. Yeah. So I kill her. She was bleeding out anyway. I'm like, all right, well, you want to die? Here you go.
Yeah.
But we have we have the information we need. Trapper's Junction is at the base of this old wall. And this will take us into one of the two big old wall dungeons, a very, very long dungeon.
The lesser of the two, in my opinion.
Right.
Like, I think this one is worse than the next one.
Yeah.
Neither of them are good.
Mhm.
I just think that this one happens to be worse. There are a couple of standard concepts
Yes.
in these that we should kind of talk about in general that I don't love. There's this whole thing about these torch keys, which I don't know what they actually represent in space.
No.
I know, what the noun is. I know what it allows me to do, but I don't know what I'm picking up when I pick up a torch key. What they allow you to do is go to these sconces in these areas and change like a glowing rune. And I don't know if I was meant to kind of like figure out the language behind these or know what these runes meant.
It felt like a guessing game every time.
Me too. Yeah, same thing. And it's, if you do the wrong one, it tends to be like you get ambushed. If you do the right one, you open up a path.
Right.
And you collect your these are across all the old walls. So torch keys you have in one will be useful in others as well. So like there are some areas you can't get into with torch keys from this place. You have to come back.
Right.
With torch keys from a later wall to get some treasure and things like that.
You can't make me.
Yeah, I didn't do it, but you can.
Right.
The idea is these were all part of one structure.
Yeah.
At one point, I think is what they're trying to communicate with that.
Yeah.
It has the cadence of like shitty Zelda puzzles to me.
Yeah, that's what I like. There's a real comparison to be made to the trial shrines in Breath of the Wild.
Yes.
Yeah.
And those are, it's not great. I don't think Zelda is good at puzzles. I think that those games have never been good at it. I think that their reputation for doing such is, undeserved.
Yeah.
Generally.
The iconoclast here.
Yeah. Look at me. Why would I say something so brave and yet so controversial? Like there are exceptions.
Yeah.
But they're all in A Link Between Worlds.
God, I love that game so much.
Yeah, it's really good. There are good puzzles in it.
Yeah.
Everything else is dumb. They're bad puzzles. The water temple is not good. The redemption moment is not deserved.
Stop trying to make the water temple happen.
Yep, it is. It's never been good, and it never will be good.
So, I'm trying to think here. So it's not just like if you put the right one down, it changes the dungeon. Opens the door or raises the stairs or raises the bridge. It will activate a button elsewhere that you have to press to open it. Which fucked me over. It took me longer than I would like to admit to figure that out.
6 days.
Yep. I haven't beaten this game yet, Gary.
Yeah. It's just, put on a pot of coffee. All night.
Boil up some Mountain Dew. It's going to be a long night.
I made some Pepsi. The kind of central feature. So yeah, it is sloppy. Yeah. The central feature of this is that there is a magical orb with a very specific type of bane, like a boss bane.
Yeah.
Called a Havoc.
Yes.
It's in there.
It is sealed in along with the body that has the insignia that we need. So to get to the body and get the insignia, we have to find all of these keystones to release the seal. And of course, deal with this demigod-like bane. That was, Lantry reminds me several times it was sealed away for a reason.
Yeah. Yep. He is nervous about releasing this.
Yes.
There's a little bit, he doesn't get his whole quest, but he does have a little bit of an arc. Like, he starts off very nervous about doing this and releasing the Silent Archive. Yeah. And then by the end, when I killed Tunon, he's like, basically like ecstatic.
Yeah.
He's so happy, like you basically let Lantry get his groove back throughout the course of this game.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Along the way here, or maybe outside of this, you meet a sage named Hieronymus who gives you a side quest saying like, hey, you'll find some elucidating stones if you can bring them back to me. You can get a lot of money for it. The side quest game in this game is pretty weak, Gary.
There aren't a lot of them.
Right.
Some of them are good, but there aren't very many of them.
There was only one that I really made a note of, and it might have just been that I was unable to access the others. In reading about it, there are a good number of side quests that are dependent on particular paths, And
Yes.
if you want side quests, it seems like the way to go is either Scarlet Chorus or the Rebellion.
There are more there, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. There are a couple of these I like generally that I think are cool side quests, none of which are Obsidian Heights.
Right.
You know? Like this is a B tier Obsidian game.
Mhm.
And it's so I generally agree with you. I didn't get this one. I didn't end up actually finding this. I don't think it's actually inside the thing. I think it must be outside.
Yeah.
But the a lot of them do end up being like, hey, you're going here anyway. Do the thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, I would agree. It is not the bulk of this or the highlight like it is in, say, a Baldur's Gate 2.
Right.
So this is actually, this winter compared to last winter is really interesting because there's shared DNA. You know, obviously people who work at Obsidian, some of them were responsible for some of BioWare's early success. Doing this with Jade Empire, neither of these games favor comparative, like this does not favor super comparatively to Baldur's Gate 2, even though I think it has a lot of cool narrative stuff in it. Like I like Tyranny a lot. And then Jade Empire does not favor comparatively to Tyranny.
Yeah.
The side quests in that are worse. Hey, you're going to go fight this boss. Can you rescue my daughter who's right behind the boss? Great.
Sure.
You know, sure. Or no, I will enslave her. She will be mud on my boot. Scowly face, closed fist.
So I have not called these those quests this, but from this point forward, I'm going to call those while you're up quests.
Yeah, while you're up,
can you get me a glass of water? Yeah.
Would you mind taking a piss for me? The quest. And that's so far that is everything in Jade Empire and half the things in this.
Yeah.
So, but there are ones here that I think that Barracks and Versus Quest are both really good. I think that, and there are quests here that like bring you to like unique locations, some of which are kind of interesting. Give you some background. This is not one of them.
Yeah.
This is just like a task while you're there. So.
Yeah.
This ends with, so this is kind of just going back and forth and stuff. It's pretty tedious. The boss fight is good. I actually like the Havoc fight a lot, who has a lot of immunities, summons help, and has heals itself. So it's really hard to, at first, you know, I had to reevaluate my strategy where I was just focusing fire because that's what I do on any boss in any video game. But it's not the right move here. He will run out of ads. Until he does, he's really, really hard to wear down.
Yeah.
So it's actually, I wanted to be taking out these ads as they showed up and then focusing on him.
Yeah. This is where I really had to change up my gear and change up my tactics, because while I was able to tough my way through the immunities on the Bane generally, here, just, it wasn't enough. Like I had to spec to fight these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tough fight.
Yeah. So, so something that's cool about these Bane, actually, like when you put the wrong torch key or torch stone on those different things, and also here, like they appear out of these like red circles that are kind of like built into the side. And you think, okay, like maybe that's where they live or whatever. No, those are Bane traps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, they break out of traps. It's extremely Aldia's Keep, Dark Souls 2.
Yeah.
Those mirrors where like guys busted out.
Yeah.
Oh.
So.
So after you do this, you get the Steadfast Insignia, which is, you know, in this game, nothing is just a key, right? It's a key, but also it's a cool item.
Yeah.
That you can equip. This is going to allow you to get into Sentinel Stand. When you get out, there's a disfavored captain there who's like basically trying to do the like, thanks for grabbing the thing for me, hand it over, you know, thing. And it's like, what are you like? Are you new? No, not really. Is it going to work?
No,
you know?
I'm going to kill you. I'm going to go do what I want. Like, why are you standing in my way?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a hilarious moment. I was, you know, they baited me into this. Like, you can do an athletics test to throw dirt at him. You know, it's like, hey, you want the insignia? Take this. But I'm standing too far away from him.
It's very funny.
It's like the dirt lands halfway between you.
It's really funny. It's like you tried to throw a paper airplane at him really hard.
Yeah.
It's very good.
It works later. I managed to beam one of the guys in the head with a rock.
Yeah, Rotomon. It's in the rock. And then you can keep egging him about it, which I love. But the writing and dialogue in this game is pretty funny. And so you take him out. And this opens up the quest making a stand, which is going to Sentinel Stand.
Yeah. We can just go and grab the sword now, but why would you do that when there's an edict to break?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love breaking edicts. Give me something to break.
Yeah.
Break stuff.
So we're going to go there. We can part the storm with the insignia and get to a place where the unfavored, the ones who are stranded on the side of the storm wall, are facing off against the unbroken.
The unbroken.
Yeah.
Versus the disfavored.
There we go. Yeah.
The unfavored are their love child.
Yeah. So, whoops.
The disbroken. Yeah.
I can't help that their names are similar.
No, it's and then again, noun soup.
Yes.
So you basically you take them out again because you're against both of them. They will fight each other. Again, which I like. Once you take the insignia up to the storm wall, it cuts a little path, it parts the wind. Yeah,
I was mistaken. I said you did that earlier. You do it here. You've got to fight. You've got to get through this fortress to get to the storm wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and here this is not a complete fight until you get to the throne room. Mm-hmm. Like you can bluff your way past the beginning.
Yeah,
and you can you can actually work your way into an audience.
Yeah,
with Stratus Harridan.
Yeah, I managed to bluff my way past the first guard. But very quickly when Stratus Harridan, basically I said, yeah, I'm here to see Stratus. I've got something he needs to fight the disfavored. And then he comes out and says, okay, who said they needed me? Oh, it's you.
Oh, it's you. How did you get here, man? You can actually bluff your way past this, and you can start doing kind of psyops on this guy.
Oh, nice.
Because the story of Stratus Harridan is really interesting. Mm-hmm. Like what this guy's done, because, basically, imagine you're in a situation where hey, this storm is going to rage and kill your people until you die. Mm-hmm. And you can be like, hey, coward.
Yeah.
Why have you not killed yourself?
Yeah.
Why have you not given up? Your people are suffering for this, and the Emperor has no clothes.
Right.
He is doing it for not good reasons here. And he's playing a little game with you. I like all this stuff quite a bit.
Yeah. This is a really strong leg of the game. Minus the Oldwalls dungeon. But
yeah. And this is really short. This is not a dungeon. There's just basically a throne room and a side chamber.
Yeah.
For this. This is not a dungeon. You fight your way in. You fight him. He's like a minor boss battle.
Yeah.
And after you beat him up, he surrenders. One of the soldiers comes to his aid, rips off her helmet, revealing long, flowing, beautiful blonde hair.
Uh-oh.
What the?
Lady soldiers?
Lady soldiers?
Ghost? No, sorry, girl. No, it's Amelia. This is Graven Ash's daughter.
Yep.
Oops.
And there's a little Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. She has fallen in love.
Yeah. Not with Stratus. That'd be weird. He's very old. She fell in love with Stratus's son.
Mm-hmm.
I love the reveal of this. Because she'll explain saying, hey, you ask why are you fighting us, why are you not returning to your dad? And it's either Stockholm syndrome or she just spent enough time, the prince, the Stratus's son, convinced her, saying yeah, you're my prisoner here, but we care about you, we don't want you to suffer. And she believes, she no longer believes in Kyros's rule.
Yep.
Yeah.
And basically, you can kill Harridan, which I do, and the storm doesn't stop. You wait a minute, and you wait a minute, and you wait a minute, and Amelia ran to another room, and we hear a baby, and it's whoa.
Uh-oh. Oh, boy.
They passed on that seed. So then you get to do, I can't imagine doing this. It's not and to the game's credit, it doesn't make this a check to realize the other way around this. If you are purely in nihilism mode, you can then dash this baby's head against the rocks.
Yeah.
In a way. But the game, this is clever, but it's not a puzzle.
Right.
What happens here? Because it is just an option to have it suggested hey, this just needs to end the bloodline. I don't need to actually murder the baby.
Mm-hmm. I mean, should we underline it just a little bit? The reason why we would kill the baby. So the wording of the edict is, the rest storm will rage on in this kingdom until the bloodline is no more. Well, until the royal bloodline is no more. Well, if the bloodline is no longer royal. Oh,
yes.
Okay. So all that it takes is either killing the baby and it is completely, ended there. Or you can just say, how about you renounce your claim to the royal bloodline? And if you, the remaining parent, renounce, then all of a sudden the baby isn't royal anymore. And boom, no more storm.
It's a normal baby.
None of us has to kill this kid, and you can run. You can make some kind of life for yourself out in the Empire. And yeah, he's like, you would let me do that?
Yeah, I'll grant you. I basically just need to end the thing.
Yes.
I'm not here to kick puppies.
Right.
Which is, I mentioned in the first episode, this game has a reputation as a puppy kicking simulator. Like, it's really not.
Right.
Yes, you killed a bunch of soldiers on the way here. Like, you are still consolidating power, but you are not necessarily puppy kicking.
Right. Those are soldiers who, by choice of their own, decided to fight you.
Yeah.
Or
disfavored fuckers.
Yeah, disfavored people who continue to be complicit in the system that stood against you. Yeah.
Yep.
I like Lantry's line on this. Like, he expresses relief. As you check with him, saying, "Hey, will this work?" He says, "I ought not to show preference for how this part of the chronicle unfolds, but I'd rather title this chapter Legal Remedy than Infant Regicide if given the choice."
Yep. And no, you think taking the merciful way out, like your companions are not going to like it. They are fine with it. They are into it.
I mean, you accidentally killed the baby, right? You mentioned this like last time. You accidentally picked the choice where the baby dies.
Mm-mm.
No,
that's something different. That's referring to you. It wasn't this baby.
Oh, cool. All right.
No. It might have been a different baby. I'm trying to remember what that could be referring to, but it wasn't this baby.
Okay.
This baby did not die.
I just remember you saying like you killed a baby.
There's so many babies, Cole.
Lots of babies.
There was a random encounter. I accidentally killed a kid. It wasn't a baby.
Gotcha.
It was a kid who had a sword who was pretending to Kyros, and I chose a choice trying to be tough and ended up having to murder him, and nobody liked my bullshit.
Gotcha.
That's what you're thinking of. This baby though. So you have to be at least 11, and then I think it's good for you to die in the game. Once you're 11, you're an adult.
Yeah.
And that's when it's time to go. If you're an infant though, no. Once you can say data, time to go. But until you can say that, you're safe from the will of Gyros. So
Gyros.
That was a random encounter.
Okay. Yeah.
I've never killed this baby. I've never seen that scene. It's not like, I understand there's a video game and these are fake. This is a play being put on for me.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not like it's like, this touched my heart so much. But I just think it's cooler. Coming through and being the guy who goes through and just dashes the baby's head against the rocks is not as cool as the guy who comes in and finds this loophole.
Yeah. It just, it's weird. Right? Like one is brutish and the other is finding a way to trick authority. And I will always be more down with tricking authority.
They're both acts of rebellion. One is a more profound act of rebellion.
Yes.
And it gets thrown in your face later. Like, Tunin doesn't like that you didn't just kill the baby. Tunin would have killed the shit out of that baby.
Yeah. Because Tunin's about the letter of the law, not necessarily the spirit. Either not understanding or choosing not to understand that, like, that particular distinction is the exact limitation of Kyros' power.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And that, again, that's what the game is saying.
Yeah.
Doing so, ending the bloodline one way or another, ends the edict, you absorb the power.
Yes.
We can now go get a sword.
Yep, we can now go get this. We can head to Trapper's Junction, and here an unbroken soldier is dying and says, "Hey, the Scarlet Chorus has swept through. They're making a campaign against the disfavored here. You're probably going to want to go deal with them, or they're going to be a factor." This is one of the areas where I just ran past the other people who were fighting, and I was like, "Well, fuck you guys."
Yeah. Fight amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
Idiots. Going to Mateus, you can't argue him out of the sword.
No.
At this point, you might be able to if you had a different alliance. But you take him out, get some information from him. He doesn't have it. He has a scroll that tells you that the Dauntless is held in a section of the Oldwalls that is infested. It's actually a breach in the Oldwalls, so you don't actually have to go into the Oldwalls. You just have to go there, where a bunch of soldiers have found this sword in a stone, basically, surrounded. And here's the implication that these artifacts attract Bane.
Right.
Here. You fight through the Bane and you get the sword in the stone.
Right. Yeah. You pull it out and you've got this, not only a very good sword, which I had used for a very long time, but you have a symbol. Like you have basically subjugated Stalwart, taken their most prized possessions, and you're using it for your campaign against Kyros.
Yep. Little pro tip, so this was a one-handed sword, which I was not spec'd for. But if you put any of these artifacts in your secondary equipment slot, you can still use their abilities.
Nice.
A lot of the weapons have special spells.
Yeah.
You can do the helmets is specifically very useful. You have to wear the helmet for that. But if you want to use the little storm that this causes, the little blade storm
Yeah.
that this causes, you can do so without actually using it as a weapon.
Yeah. This was made for Barrack, it seemed like. So, but that's one artifact down.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and now it is time for the helmet, which I mentioned.
And this is not an old artifact. Like, it's not like all of these are ancient. We're going after the Magebane, which is a helmet that is like state of the art. It was crafted specifically in Lethian's Crossing, and it was made to protect people against the Bane. Just as an insurance policy against the Oldwalls breaching.
Yep. This is and it's going to be useful because I don't like fighting the Bane.
Right.
I want an item to help me fight the Bane.
Yes.
It is useful. It has this like AoE effect that weakens them all, which is a powerful status effect.
Yeah.
The creator of this is someone named Zdenya. She's Michi. And she works at you know what it is now.
I know. I just don't like being reminded of what it is.
Leave him alone. Leave Gabe Gundacker alone. He's funny.
Fine. I understand that he's funny. It's just it is still a nonsense phrase.
Yeah. Well, it's me and Paul F. Tompkins versus you.
Okay.
We like it.
All right.
Me and the gentleman.
I'm not gonna take it away from you. I'll just be over here sighing quietly to myself.
Sigh alone in your dungeon. Sigh alone in your oubliette. Everyone else joined me.
The psyops.
Yeah. The psyops. The Cygate conspiracy.
But yeah, Zdenya, she's basically a pawn in this. All she wants to do is make cool stuff, and everybody. She's basically Otacon. Yeah,
she has some Otacon like qualities, including a 6-hour digression about incest, which people forgave and said was really good in his masterpiece. So Mark doesn't think that she'll just give it up. You're going to have to, but she might have information about it. You go to her, you talk to her, and you basically have to try to convince her about it. She doesn't want to let you take it. You can make a couple different arguments.
Yeah.
You can try to requisition it. You can lie and say Tunon has requisitioned it. I was basically making the same argument you made here.
Yeah.
The practicality argument, like it is a better use. Like, don't you want to see this thing used? Like it can rust away in the Oldwalls, or I can take it and actually help with the conquest.
Yeah. Which will be better for your name ultimately as a master craftsman. But she doesn't want to bite the hand that feeds her. Yep.
And luckily for you, when you go outside, just kind of take it yourself, the Bronze Brotherhood have attacked.
Yeah, they're back. They're attacking and killing people in the town that they used to rule. And this is kind of the first sign that Raytamon is fucking nuts.
You can talk to one of his lieutenants earlier who tells you basically as much.
Yeah.
But this is him past the and this again just kind of tantalizing details that are not fully followed up on. The implication is that he lost his mind from spending too much time in the Oldwalls. Like that the presence of the Bane corrupts your mind and stuff. Yes. There are a lot of like weird little threads like that are not fully explored. Again, that are kind of functions of this is one of the best edited down games that I've played. Like I think this actually ends up being a complete and pretty fulfilling experience while still having this thing. It doesn't feel like a plot hole.
Right.
It feels like, oh, that's a cool detail. Like I want to read the source book in this game. It doesn't feel bad. Yeah. That we don't spend more time with this idea that Bane drive you mad.
Well, I like the way that it articulates because we learn exactly what happened to him later on. Like
we learn what happened to him, but it's not a big part of the story.
Right.
That there are these walls full of crazy making elementals.
Right.
Yeah. And that doesn't feel bad. It feels like a cool detail that could be followed up on later.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you.
So you go out. You check on the mayor here because you got to make sure he's okay.
Yeah.
And Radamon shows up. He's wearing the helmet.
Right.
The attack was a distraction to grab it.
Right. And this is where you can throw the rock at him. It manages to hit, which is good. And then he runs away. Like that's enough. I think there was no skirmish here. So fun. And you've got to go because he doesn't just have the helmet. He has also taken Zedenya hostage. You meet up with him at his camp, which is just on the same map as Lethian's Crossing, but down at the outskirts. You don't meet up with him. You meet up with like the rest of his dudes, and they reveal his plan, saying like, what he's going to do in order to take Lethian's Crossing back, he's going to unleash the Bane.
Yep. And he has this helmet, so he's going to try to fight them off to become a hero.
Yes.
Like that Clint Eastwood movie about the Atlanta bomber looks unusually good. I keep seeing trailers for.
It looks unusually good, but that can't actually have good politics, can it?
No. Yeah. There's no way, but the trailer is really good.
The trailer is really good, yeah.
It really drives me nuts. I keep seeing it, and I'm like, why does this look good? I got jokered the first time.
Yeah.
That looked good, and I saw it, and it's only all right. Like, I'm not going to fall for this again. I'm not going to go watch a Clint Eastwood movie. I'm going to go Gran Torino'd. You know?
Like, Gran Torino is actually good.
I've heard that, but it ends with a song called Gran Torino about the movie Gran Torino, and I can't get over that. Like, that's amazing to me.
Yeah.
and sung by the director and writer and character.
Yeah.
Like Clint Eastwood at a piano singing a song about Gran Torino. I can't get over it. It's too much. It's too wild.
Yeah.
For me.
But yeah. But Radamon now, excuse me, I have a town to endanger so I can save it.
Yep.
Oh, Jesus.
He fits the profile.
But yeah, you deal with his lieutenants, introducing you to a couple of different kinds of Bronze Brotherhood folks. We got the Raiders, we got the Bruisers, basically regular and heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But Zedenya and Radamon are nowhere to be found.
Yep. So you go and you talk to the mayor. He gives you a couple of different locations they might be. There's a disused travel route called Deserters March. I wonder what they have there. There's also an abandoned camp at Twin Rivers.
Yes.
You can go to.
Yeah, you've got the option. I go to Deserters March first. And here you've got these two lieutenants who are arguing. One of them is a loyalist, and the other says, like, hey, Radamon he's a mad king. He can't be trusted. Like, he's gonna marches against the rocks. There's no future for us. There's no future for Lethian's Crossing if we have him doing this stuff. And you can try and convince the loyalists to see the light.
So the way the Bronze Brotherhood ends, it doesn't have to end in combat. You can kind of ally with them and put a leveler head in charge.
Yes. Yeah. I was not able to convince them to do this.
No. You can. I think you can even on this path, but I chose it doesn't favor the Forgebound, which were who I was trying to get in good with.
Yes.
They are set up in opposition.
Right. So I had to kill them and take the keystone. That would get me into the Oldwalls.
Yep.
There's a cool side quest that you can do around this time, like once you have restored Lethian's Crossing, once you have fought off the Bronze Brotherhood, that I made a note of, and it'd be cool to talk about right here. A Widow's Revenge.
Yeah. So this is there's a woman named Dea who hails you down. You could have talked to her before this, and she says there's a man named Sadro who killed her wife, Phaedra.
Yes. Saying like, hey, I need you to go kill him. You're a lawman. You cannot be allowed to walk. Go and find him at Twin Rivers, and take care of him. But of course, but of course, this is complicated. You go find him, and he's just a skinny, trembling twerp.
And he basically says like, hey, no, I was friends with Phaedra. Like, we were really friends. I told her not to marry Dea. That's why Dea hates me. I don't have any proof, but you have to believe me.
Yes.
So it's a he said, she said kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you can kind of be suspicious when you interfaced with them before. If you talk to them when you're just kind of chatting with NPCs in the town, Dea is not very kind to Phaedra. And again, the way this game is not stupid. Like, you can call her on this. You can say, hey, like, when I saw you guys weren't getting along. And she's like, people don't get along. That doesn't mean that I wanted her murdered.
Right.
That, which is reasonable, right? Like, couples fight.
Yeah.
Couples must fight. Couples must argue for a better day tomorrow. Couples must fight. So you kind of go back and you can confront her about this, and you get a motivation. The reason why is because Dea is the heir to Lethian's Crossing.
Yes. So she inherited all of the land that Lethian's Crossing was on.
Yeah, or Phaedra is, rather.
Yes, Phaedra is. Dea married her for the land. That is Phaedra's or we've got all this stuff that is Sadro's kind of accusation, saying like, yeah, that's the motive. Dea married Phaedra for the land and killed her so she could get it.
And so she could tax it and stuff. She got the land, but they didn't agree about how to use it.
Right.
You know, so Dea is the villain here. You go back to her, she cops to it. She basically says like, you know, bravo, you know, like you figured it out. She's planning to raise the rent. You can take a bribe from her, like take a cut, let her go. You can kick her out. Since I was planning, like, this is my land, you know, I'm planning on this being the town, you know, Gary City 1.
Yeah.
You know, she's got to go.
Yeah. I just basically said, this is small potatoes. I'm not dealing with this shit. Make your fortune now. I'll get you later. So that was, that was about how it went for me. But it's a cool quest. You know, it is you functioning as a fate binder. I like that, you know, kind of like in The Witcher, it's fun that you function as a Witcher.
It's good to do Witcher shit.
Yes.
Yeah. So continuing, you go to Twin Rivers. The Bronze Brotherhood, they're overwhelmed by the Bane. So they're fighting. Again, you can wait and pick off the winners. You can just kind of get past them and go for the gate. You can ignore their fight.
Yeah.
And inside, there are non-hostile Bronze Brotherhood lieutenants. They're like, oh, I can't believe you made it in. Yeah, we're here waiting. We can't get past this room. Raidamon spent some nights in the Oldwalls to prove his strength, and he just keeps spending more and more time there.
Yeah.
Again, it has this kind of One Ring style corrupting force to it.
He's addicted to whatever's inside here.
Yep.
Yeah. This is fun because I had Lantry volunteer to talk the lieutenant into handing over the torch stone that we need. Like that's how I did this. I have no idea what happened. He basically Jedi mind tricks him, but he doesn't explain it. And we've known for a while, like if you talk to Lantry for any amount of time, like he's got some depths. Like he's not just a sage; he's a secret agent, basically.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly what he did to get them to hand this over.
The way I read it was he distracts him and takes it. I read this as a pickpocket, basically. But yeah, it's a little bit confusing. He likes it if you let him take over, and he'll only do it if you have a certain amount of approval. Yeah, with him. So this is the better of the two Oldwalls dungeons. This is not as bad, I don't think.
So it's not as big.
It's not as big. It's not as like back and forthy.
Yeah.
Is the other one. There's a couple little, but it's all the normal Oldwalls stuff that we talked about. So lots of Bane, lots of torch keys, and making little bridges extend and stuff. Yeah. Traps, things like that. One thing about this game I like, so traps in Baldur's Gate were annoying because you had to go into trap find mode, and then my characters would step on them anyway. Here, though, the addition of regenerating health makes traps like not a big deal. Also, they apply to enemies as well.
Yes.
So I actually really like traps in this game. Like I will have a character spot a trap, and then I, will draw an enemy with fire and have them step into it and just fuck themselves up.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is a constructive bottleneck for me to use.
Yeah, it's not just something that only applies to me. It's also everyone could disarm every trap.
Yes.
I didn't have to have a specialist. I actually like traps in this game quite a bit. So you there's a little side quest you can do in here. You find one of the Forgebound who is trespassing in the Oldwalls. If you talk to the mayor asks you to find him, or not the mayor. It's one of the guys at the forge.
Oh yeah.
Ask you to find him. And you can either chastise him, for this. And there's a great little bit where he's really scared that you're going to chastise him, and you can basically say like, hey, I'm not supposed to be here either. And then he's like, oh yeah, you're not above the law. Let's keep each other's secrets. Like you can make him a conspirator.
It's like you're smoking behind the gym, and like the young teacher comes out, and you're like, oh God, I'm caught. He's like, hey, you got a light? And like,
exactly.
We're gonna smoke together.
I'm gonna date you.
No.
Well, let's get inappropriate.
Shit.
I've been watching later Simpsons.
Okay.
Because I have Disney Plus now, and I just the novelty of watching Simpsons I've never seen before.
Yeah.
And generally enjoying it. Like there are some good gags. Yeah. And I watched one of the Treehouses of Horror where Bart goes to school in hell.
Okay.
And it's just weird. Some of the jokes they have in later Simpsons, like they're dirtier and grosser than they were in early ones. Like there's a part where he's like, I can't believe I have a crush on the teacher. And the teacher comes over. She's like a demon. She's like, here in hell, we can make that happen. I'm like, well, he's still fucking 10.
Yeah.
Like this is like, I get that in hell, there probably are like teachers that fuck their students.
Yeah.
Like that's probably not off limits for hell.
Yeah, but like that's a joke. Like that is a joke / genuine belief of people like Tucker Carlson and Bill Maher.
Yes, exactly. Like I was like, ugh, in generally like a fairly fun episode of that show. It's the one that ends with them being haunted by the Tracy Ullman version of The Simpsons, which is pretty fun. I thought that was clever.
Yeah.
So.
Lester and Eliza swinging by.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Baby Herman's there, not Lester and Eliza, but the Lester and Eliza likes are there. So once you make him a conspirator, you can sneak him out by getting him some Bronze Brotherhood armor.
Yep.
To wear so he can just kind of walk out.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Yep. Yeah. But you find Raidamon in this huge central chamber. He's wearing the helmet, and he is basically futzing around with another huge glowing force field orb because he's gone insane. He is the Havoc has been talking to him, and the Havoc's like, "Hey, let me out. Let me out and send all the Bane free from the Oldwalls, and you can reclaim Lethian's Crossing. I'll let you have what's left. I swear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're very similar to demons in like Dragon Age or something.
Yeah.
You have to fight him. He's lost his mind.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little boss fight here. Generally fairly easy. This guy's kind of a chump. You can tease him about his head, that where you hit him with the rock and stuff. Like this guy is a figure of fun. He is meant to be pathetic.
Yes.
In this. Old Rodamon, time's good. Things are coming up Rodamon finally.
Yeah. No, I down him, and I take care of Havoc. I exile him from Lethian's Crossing. Like, oh, the one thing in the world that you want is to rule over this town. Well, you can never set foot here again. Beat it, chump.
Yeah. Yep. Had to go for me. No Bronze Brotherhood for me. Exiling them, I think, is the thing that gives you more favor with them because his second in command takes over.
No.
And then he has Zidania, and you can there's like free her, execute her. I'm like, that'd be a weird turn.
Yeah.
Point. I understand that it's kind of the game I'm playing, but
yeah, it just doesn't seem wise. Like just there's evil and there's like opportunist and whatever, but there's like dumb evil. Like I'm just gonna kill you just to kill you.
Yeah, like chaotic stupid or what they call it when they're making fun of it in D&D. And this game generally avoids chaotic stupid.
Yes,
which I like. So you take the helmet, you free her, and you return to Blend Mark. Every time you do this, he kind of will ask to like test things out, and depending on your approval, this can go a couple different ways.
Yeah.
I never gave him any artifacts because I'm like, I don't trust this guy, and he loves it when you don't trust him.
Oh, he hated it when I didn't trust him.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It might be different artifacts. Like it depends on what the thing is.
Yeah.
But I basically was just like, or like you can deflect. Like you may deflect to different ways of testing the thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't let him take hands on any of my stuff.
Yeah. I think I denied him one thing and he was like, oh, well, is that how it's going to be? And then I handed him the other ones because he had proven himself trustworthy.
Yeah. He, if you get your approval high enough, he gives you an artifact. He'll give you his gloves.
Ooh.
Which allow you to do a teleport strike.
Nice.
And teleporting in this game is useful. It's not quite like Divinity useful, but it's still useful.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a cool thing, and it seems like a trap. Like you can be very suspicious of the gloves, but because all the things were like approval 3, approval 4, like I was like, okay, well he's not going to fuck me over. He approves of me.
Yeah,
that he likes.
On the other hand, that's what he wants you to think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's not quite the I ended up winning him over to my side. He is not playing fourth dimensional chess with me.
No.
So. But he can be be playing you if you don't get your approval up. If you don't handle him particularly well during this, he will turn on you.
Yes.
At the end of this.
Mm-hmm.
So, the final thing you need is the Azure Shield, which is in the Stone Sea. The Stone Sea is where Karen had been.
Yeah. Karen, he was the Archon of Stone, the leader of the Earthshakers, right? He was working under Graven Ash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we're going to see what happened to him.
Yeah, I think in the last episode I referred to him as being alive, but I was misremembering something about his weird Terry Schiavo-esque state.
Yes, yeah, the life support that he's on, and I mean it's kind of sad, like what happened to Azure. The Edict of Stone was declared specifically after Cairn rebelled. And this once verdant-like farmland kingdom has turned into a big shifting crag, essentially.
Yes, a state of near constant earthquake.
Yes, and like this has been a thing when you've walked into an area that was affected by a particular edict. Like there were a couple of stat changes when you were in the Edict of Stone of Storms down in Stalwart. Here, this is the one that that showed up for me the most, because just randomly an earthquake can happen in combat and it will knock you prone.
Yeah, which is a big deal.
Yeah,
it takes you a long time, and since this takes place in real time, the time you spend getting up, is a huge pain. Here,
yeah,
this is where your side quest with Kills and Shadows happens. Or we should need to talk about recruiting Siren, because you can do that at any time.
Yeah, you can do that at Lethian's Crossing. Let's do that.
Yeah. So you can grab her. She is in a room where she has her weird coterie, like people, her followers, her thralls. You basically can conscript her.
Yeah.
She is ostensibly on the side of the Scarlet Chorus, but she is actually a victim as well. Yeah. Her character, like, she is not a Scarlet Chorus character. She has been tormented by the voices of Nerat. Basically, like, she is extremely Antifa. Yeah. In this.
Yeah. And she, like, is traumatized by what has happened here. And she is not as amoral as you were led to believe, either in the Conquest, when you found out about her, using her powers. This is the person who can basically entrance people by singing. She was using her powers to, like, basically build a sect. And you had to figure out how to deal with her here. When you talked to her before at the Scarlet Chorus camp in Chapter 1, she attempted to use her powers to fascinate you. Like, she is not just this shitty teenage girl who, uses her power to get what she wants. Like, she is that, but she also, has a compass, which I was surprised and happy to see.
Yeah, she's a really interesting character. She has a really robust backstory. About when her parents found out that she had this power. Her father basically, like, immediately started exploiting her. And you can get her to open up about how she got recruited. This, like, she made an attempt on Kyros during a performance, and Kyros could not admit it or punish her because it would be admitting that she got close to killing him. Yeah. Which is, again, the perception of power is power in this game. And eventually that is how she got put in the hands of the voices of Nerat. Like, he gave her to the voices of Nerat essentially as a punishment. So this thing that you've done where you've taken her into your employ, even though the cadence of it when I did it was conscripting her, since I wasn't on the side of the Scarlet Chorus, you're basically rescuing her. Yeah. And she's young. Like, in this game, she's 15. She's very young. She is mechanically really interesting.
Yeah, I really like the way that she worked.
Yeah. She has a unique mechanic. Yeah. So her thing is, she is like the bards in Pillars of Eternity, if you played that. She sings songs, bard songs, but they fixed bards. In Baldur's Gate 2, bards kind of suck because they can only sing. So you basically sacrifice a party slot for a persistent buff. Yeah. Like, I have this character who just hangs out, tries to stay out of combat, and gives my characters a buff. In here, you have a lot of different songs. They're not part of her tech tree. Like, you don't have to, they're just unlocked at levels. You don't have to pay for them. And they have progressive buffs as they get further into the song, like further into stanzas. You can choose which one you do. And as you do, you build up a resource called Breath, which you use for arias. And arias are powerful buffs and debuffs. Yeah. And direct damage. Like, there's a lot of different effects for arias, but they're really powerful. You have to build up a resource for them.
Yes. So just it ends up being something that builds over the course of a battle, and the longer a battle goes on, the more able she is to turn it. Yeah.
Which makes her great for boss fights, things like that. Like, the longer the battle, and you can also get effects that either make her build up breath faster, or can save breath after battles to start off with being able to do some arias. Her ultimate ability allows her to sing 2 songs at once.
So good.
Which is incredibly powerful. Really, really good. Like, really, really powerful. I did not use her my first playthrough. I was really happy I did the second playthrough. Like, she is borderline broken.
Yes.
She becomes basically untouchable. Like, she has a bunch of buffs that stop her from disengagement attacks, which means that if you manage her, you can just make her walk away from enemies, and, like, they'll get caught up by one of your other bottlenecks, by one of your other guys. So you can just kind of keep her away from trouble really easily. She has, like, a mage armor that she has, like, at all times that you can buff up and everything. Like, her tech tree and her abilities are really cool. She's a very robust character.
Yeah, I intended to use her as a buff as opposed to a debuff. That just seemed like it would be more, she would fit into my existing party better, especially because I replaced Verse with Siren. So I basically had one person who was doing melee and everybody else was doing casting. I figured, okay, I'd use her to prop up Barrick. She is so useful as a debuff. Like, you can, there's one particular skill that you can get where she has a cone of effect that shatters armor.
Yeah.
which is a huge deal later on because you end up fighting a lot of heavies who have armor who, absorb a lot of the damage that would otherwise get to them. This is basically just a way to get around something that the game was using to make later encounters hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's fantastic.
Yes.
And really, really great characterization. There's no quest for her.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like, so her helmet that she has was specifically given to her by Kyros to limit her power. The implication being that she would be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
If she did not have that. In the main game, there's not a quest to remove it. You can try, but you can't.
Yeah.
In the DLC, you can.
Yeah.
That's the thing they added. It's not really a quest, but you can follow some conversation trees and give her some extra power and make her helmet a regular item.
Yeah.
You can use.
Yeah. Good character. I really liked using her.
Yeah. Tyranny is awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can take her. By this point, I absolutely had her going into the what's this area called? Stone Sea? There we go. Yeah. The remains of Azure. And this is the place where, like, the Beastmen, a particular tribe, the Stone Stalkers, have started moving back in. Like, initially, Azure, in taking all this land to make into farms, chased all these Beastmen out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that is the kind of the conflict here.
Yes.
I ended up favoring the Beast people because I had Kills and Shadow on my team, and I wanted to try it. I still don't like the way they're characterized. It made the people of the Stone Sea kind of hate me, which is fine because they're not super well developed. Like, there's cool stuff in this area, but this is, out of the 3 spokes, I feel like this is the most rushed. Yeah. Like, there are two spires here. Like, it feels a little rushed.
Yeah.
Here.
When Blade and Mark sends you over here, you have an initial contact at a place called Halfgate. This contact is Hagrin, is who this is. And Blade Mark says, should he give you any trouble, simply inform him that this is his last chance to see his wife again, just in case you needed a reminder that you're not dealing with good people. Yep.
And you can, ask him about it. And basically, if you try to be the good guy here, he's like, go fuck off.
Yeah.
This is none of your business. Also, you're not going to help me with this.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about it?
Yeah. He basically calls you out for trying to be good boy points here, which is really great. So when you get there, this area is actually occupied by the Scarlet Chorus as well, who are basically, protecting / kind of like partying in the town.
Yeah.
Fucking everything up. You have to take out some of them, chase some of them off.
Yeah.
And kill their leader, Misery, who's there.
Yeah. This is where you bring the message to Hagrin. Of course, he's angry with you, but he gives you the location because he wants to see his wife again.
Yep.
And this location is a gorge that was recently taken by the Beastmen.
So you head there, and there's like a little mechanic here where there are these Azure crystals coming through, which you can harvest if you have certain athletics. Yeah. They're valuable. It's for money. But you find out later that this is part of their religion.
Yes.
Of the Beastmen. I had already taken a bunch of them. I just imagine my character like putting them behind his back and being like, oh yeah, I'll kill all the disfavored who are taking your Azure.
No, it's a ghoul. You eat the poplars, Gary.
Yeah, exactly. So you go here. There are some Scarlet Choruses about as you make your way to the Stone Stalkers here, and their leader, their prima, 100 Eyes, who Kills and Shadow had a lot of words for. They kind of sparred.
Right.
She will not give you the shield unless you actually deal with the disfavored who have taken up in the Stone Sea. Yeah. There's a couple little quests here, side questy things like there's a little bit of intrigue here with the Scarlet Chorus, who are dressing up as disfavored to frame them, which I think is great.
Love that.
And there's a really funny scene when you first run into them, but it's very brief. Like, you just go to them and they're just like trying to sound like the disfavored, which is fun.
Imitating somebody you have contempt for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But mainly you have to go to this area under the spire, take out these disfavored, and get the shield that way.
Yeah, pretty easy to do. I just go and talk to somebody at the Golf Glow Oldwalls, and that gets me another spire, which is nice. Again, pretty rushed. You just get these spires for for walking into them. And then you go and talk to Red Claw. She doesn't want to hand over the shield. Like, basically 100 says, "Oh, go talk to my lieutenant." The lieutenant says, "Why would they hand this over?" She wants me to go kill some of these Earthshakers. So I got to go deal with them. But you don't have to. I just used my athletics and I snarled at her, saying like Prima's word is Prima's word, and I got around needing to do this. I had to kill the Earthshakers later, though.
Yeah.
They're
good because they're protecting Kieran.
Yeah,
I think you don't have to if you don't want to grab the piece of Kieran.
Yes.
Here. So you go to, after you do this, you get the shield. You go to where Kieran's body is resting at this Earthshaker camp, where they're protecting him. He is like a Titan. It's very like God of War energy. He's a gigantic stone man.
Yeah.
And your companions will comment on this. Like Landry's like, can you imagine, trying to be one of these people standing up to Kyros, and this comes barreling down the battlefield at you?
Yeah.
But he's seen better days because he mouthed off and he's got punished.
Yeah. So he got punished by being turned into stone, basically. Like this entire map, when you're here, I thought that Cairn was like sealed in some kind of orb, which is where all of those, which is where all of those,
the Banes.
Like the Banes and the power staffs were directing the beams of energy to keep him alive, or in this kind of half alive, half dead state. No, the orb was just like a round thing on his helmet. If you look closer, you can see like there's his face and there's his beard, and like this whole ridge over here is his arm, where that just happens to be how it laid when he fell.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really great. And the Earthshakers, this is their leader. They're trying to protect him.
Yeah.
You have to take these guys out.
Yeah.
You do so. You grab a piece of this azurite to raise a bridge, take them out, and smash all the stones that are keeping him alive. And this allows you to harvest him.
Yep.
You harvest a piece of Kieran, and depending on which piece you take, you get a little ring slot item that gives you a powerful passive benefit. And these can be upgraded.
Yeah.
And stuff. It's basically a stat boost wherever you want a stat boost. It's really useful because the soft cap on stats is 19.
Yeah.
Once you get to 19, it takes 2 points to increase. So like, for this, I upgraded this and it had like, it's like +3 might, and it was already at 19. So
it's like getting 6 levels. Yeah,
exactly. It was huge. So really, really cool. And different parts of his body symbolizes different stats.
Yeah.
Pretty neat.
Like it quite a bit.
Yep.
Yeah. And I killed a god. So fun.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone loves your bullshit.
Yeah.
Like you absorb the edict, you gain a bunch of power, and Lantry is just like, how do you feel? Like this is rad.
Yeah.
This is real good. I love this. You're killing it, King.
But yeah, we have the three artifacts, so you can go back to Bladen and see what how he feels about you. He offers to test, or he demands to test the shield in a little duel. And like this is not done in the combat engine. It's just like a choice of what you want to do. Like I succeed in the duel by raising the shield.
Yeah. And it bounced off an effective shield. I did not have anyone spect.
Yeah.
For shield, Lantry ended up using it.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, because mages can use shields in this because it's not D&D. And it was useful for the renown ability.
Yeah. I popped it onto Barrack, my golem.
If I had a golem.
Yeah.
If I had a golem. Should we let's talk about Barrack and Versus?
Yeah, let's do that.
Quest real quick. Just, not hyper detailed, but just kind of in a zoomed out way. They're both really good.
Yeah.
I think. So Barrack, you go and we talk to Tunin on Barrack's behalf and say like, hey, I'd like to remove him from the armor. Tunin says no. Like him being in the armor is actually good for Kyros. I forbid anyone from messing with us. Anyone under Kyros' rule. So you have to, again, loophole lawyer, find somebody who is not in Kyros' rule to go test this. You kind of jump through a series of hoops. Like you have to go to a couple different locations, get a piece of metal from the original Blade Grave, get some royal blood from there, and eventually kill Graven Ash.
Yeah.
To get there. If you're siding with this disfavored, you can convince Graven Ash to relinquish his protection over Barrack. But once that happens, you can then take off his armor.
Yeah.
He is disheveled At first, you have to there's pictures of him. He's like naked and has this big scraggly beard, and he looks like a wild man. And you have to convince him to like clean up.
Right.
He gets very depressed by this because it's been his identity for so long.
Well, he doesn't want you to take the armor off. Like you're doing this against his will. He doesn't think it's.
He doesn't
broken.
want it at all.
Yeah.
He does not feel like it should happen, and it's depression.
Mm-hmm.
Like again, we talked about it in the last episode. He is a victim of Kyros and does not think of himself as such.
Right.
Like reckoning with what has been done to him is, shatters his dissonance.
Yeah.
Over his mental dissonance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wish I would have been able to do this quest, but I did not. What about Versus quest?
Yeah. So Versus quest, she finds out the Voices of Nerat sends a letter saying that he has information on her old gang. She had this series of sisters, like four.
Say the name.
This is an ass gang.
Okay.
This is a different gang. This is
cool. Gotcha.
She ran a lot of gangs. This is like her Fox Force 4.
Okay.
Of four killer ladies. And during the conquest they were killed. And because Voices of Nerat is a shithead, he's giving her this trail of breadcrumbs, basically trying to manipulate her. Like, hey, I found out I got a lead for you. And you can tell her hey, this is a trap. And she's like, I know it's a trap, but we have to do it. I have to get revenge. And basically this is about the emptiness of revenge. As you are going through this, you are finding out hey, this guy who did this was doing it under orders and has a totally different life now.
Yeah.
And this woman, you go and try to find this woman who killed your people. You get two names, one of which is already dead. Then you find out the other one is also already dead and only her mother is there. And it's well, do I kill her? What do I do? Mm-hmm. Versus having a hard time struggling with this. And it really is a character growth thing for her when she realized this vengeance would serve nothing.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is that you can kind of press her. And the reason why she is so insistent on this is because she has Archon potential. She is, after her sisters died, she started being able to do their acts, their moves, without thinking about it.
Yeah, you can actually get this without doing the side quest. You can make this observation, and she resists it. She doesn't want to acknowledge that she has this.
Yeah, because that's what the Voices of Nerat does, and she does not want to be like him. He's a psychopath.
Yeah.
This plays into a Voices of Nerat ending that you can get if you have the DLC. You can go there and get this ending no matter what. Otherwise, you have to be on the Scarlet Chorus path to get it. But it's classic Obsidian awesomeness. What can happen? We'll talk about that in a minute. But this is kind of, you have to do those steps, have that conversation with her and have her have this realization in order to unlock that ending for that path.
Gotcha.
But yeah, just really good character growth stuff. Her realizing I'm still the same person I am, but vengeance is dumb.
Yes. Better ways to use my time. Yeah. The Barrack and Verse content that I did get, just in talking to them, and by basically doing the first half of the game with Barrack and Verse in my party, you can make the observation, for being completely opposite people, you fight together pretty well. And if you pull that thread a little bit, you basically get them to admit that we're actually brother and sister, or half brother, half sister. Because Barrack's dad, just on campaign, slept with Verse's mom, kind of came to the farmland. This is a real shame for Barrack because, again, the disfavored are all racist. The bloodline was tainted or what have you. And they have just kind of had this really strange relationship, being aware that each other are out there fighting for opposing armies. And you can get them to train with each other and get a good little combo attack that they can do together.
And this is, you have to have approval with both of them.
Yes.
So I did not have enough approval with Barrack for this. I got Verse to talk about it, but Barrack kept ending the conversation.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah. Despite my best attempts, I ended up getting favor, or respect, loyalty from these guys as opposed to fear. So I guess I'm a bad tyrant.
my Barrack ending is unbelievably tragic.
Yeah, I ended up getting a bad Barrack ending specifically for how I handled the final quest.
You well, there's ways to get around that.
Okay,
you can actually undo it, but I did not.
No.
So yeah, you can take it. You can cheer him back up, but nope,
didn't work.
So yeah,
he never spoke a word again.
Yeah, Varric has a very tragic ending.
Yeah.
In my world.
Yep.
So, Blend Mark, after you're talking to him, says like, listen, the 2 Archons are sick of your bullshit.
Yeah.
Graven Ash is actually ready to march on you. Go to your mountain spire to prepare.
Yeah.
And depending on what path you've been taking, you get like a lieutenant here. If you're independent like we are, we get a fate binder.
Yeah.
There, and they're there basically to like take your place, to represent Tunan's court. Like, if you fall, I might take your place. Also, I got to see this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
like, okay, everybody's been curious, like, what is the deal with this spire? What is the deal with this fate binder? Who can use them? You can interact with the spire and basically probe and prod, and Nunaval, this other fate binder, says like, well, this is really strange. I don't know what to call you, the Archon of Spires, I guess, because you can use the spires to declare your own edicts, something that, again, only the equivalent of the God King of this world has ever been able to do before.
And it's really, to me, and I don't know, your mileage may vary and people are listening may vary, it's really hard to underestimate how cool this feels.
Yeah.
To me, like going to my base, choosing a menu of these like wide-reaching environmental effects to cripple an army that is marching at my gates is one of the more empowering things I've done in a game.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I realized on replaying this is like a big, we talk about power fantasies a lot in the network and how that can be a shallow thing and it can be frustrating. All of the power fantasy stuff in this game just works for me 100%. This is the way I want it articulated.
It's this is
the scale.
Yes.
That I want. And it is just like the badassness of things you do is so fucking cool to me in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just you have seen what this does in the fiction. Like you have spent the entire game up to this point walking in kingdoms and realms that have been torn apart by these edicts, and the fact that you can declare them on your own, even in a slightly diminished capacity. It is an incredibly rewarding moment when it turns out that by speaking into this resonator, you can make this happen. I only wish that this played like you had a little bit more time to play with this, because like you can only do it like once or twice before
the game's basically over.
Yeah.
Like you get to do 3 of them.
Yeah.
You get to do 3 of them. There are 5 total. There are 3 of them you get on the main path. There's 1 you get for Blend Mark approval, and there's 1 you can research in the library.
Gotcha.
That you can have. But this is the thing that makes me want Tyranny 2. Imagine, again, made by Paradox, so it has that tactical edge where you are choosing these quests to go into these lands, fighting back against Kyros, and you get to declare these edicts on those lands.
I mean, the way that my particular story ended, using Bladen Mark's edict to cast Eternal Night over the entire empire. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like I want to play that game so bad. Like I really would like a Tyranny 2, please.
Yeah, please.
There are mechanical things about this that are a little bit subpar. The setup for this and this little taste that you get of that potential and playing at that scale is just so like on an axis. It is the culmination of Obsidian's base building stuff in that the bases here are not super robust, right? Like there are 5 of them. They each have a specialty. They're cool. Like I think the base building in this game is neat, but it's pretty elementary.
Yeah.
As far as just scale of base building though, like this feels more powerful, cooler, and bigger than Neverwinter Nights 2 keeps or the Planner Sphere in Baldur's Gate 2 or any of that stuff.
Yeah. It's it's weird. It's modest in implementation, but extremely grandiose in implication.
Yes. And in a way that's sold because the writing in this game is good. Like if this were not a well-written game, they could just tell you this is very powerful and cool, but it wouldn't feel like it.
Yeah.
But the fact that they've laid so much track and they've done this so well, like this is just like an amazing moment.
Yeah.
I was just gleeful at this moment where I'm like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
This is a cool thing to do in a video game. Like I am doing a cool thing.
I am okay with this game, like flattering me with sucking up to me as the player. Like, oh, you are powerful. You are the chosen one because it took this long to get here.
Yes, it sells it really well.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous thing. It's not Titanfall 2 where you get a field promotion and everyone is immediately S&D nonstop. Like, it doesn't feel like that. It's better written than that. It's slower than that. Like, it is one of those things that's like a power fantasy. Similar to like an evil, like a Black Hat playthrough is not inherently like a sloppy or bad thing just because that's mostly been how they've been done.
Yeah.
Like you can do them well. It is a tool. It's just it has a bad association. It's like QTEs, right? Like there are QTEs that are fine. It's just that you get your fucking David Cages out there to give the entire prospect a bad name. But actually it's just a tool. Like you can do it well. Same thing with this kind of like Black Hat playthrough. Same thing with a power fantasy. Same thing with like having characters aggrandize the player. If you articulate that well, that is not inherently dumb or bad.
Right.
It's just dumb or bad 9 out of 10 times. Yeah. So yeah, this is just amazing. I did for this one, because this was on my doorstep, I did the Storms one because I'm like, if I'm going to hang out on top of this tower, I'd like to watch lightning. It seems like a kind of thing I would do in real life.
I intended to do the lightning one, but for some reason I did the flame one.
Well, they have those different stat effects.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Now that you're doing them, they give you buffs and your enemies detriments.
Yeah.
And the stone one is incredibly powerful. The night one is incredibly powerful. And the fifth one you can get, the library one, malediction. I think that's what it's called. It's the malediction edict.
You can declare the malediction prophecy.
I think it's called malediction. That's really good. It's all luck based.
Okay.
Which I love. That is something that I didn't unlock it this time. I had it in the last one.
Yeah.
But I love unleashing that on Kyros. Like, yeah, everyone stubs their toe now, fucker. No one wins rock, paper, scissors. Everybody throws a fourth thing that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
There's no luck in your kingdom. Everybody, like, it's so neat.
Yeah.
It's just so neat as like a curse. Like I love a curse on an area.
Pretty good.
Cool trope.
Yeah. I did the fire one. And it takes this moment that is, really sold to you. Like, yeah, no, this is, the armies are at your doorstep, man. And it turned fighting off this little, this battalion of the disfavored, into just like killing like 4 or 5 dudes who managed to march through the field of flame, that filled this, that filled this well, right? Yeah.
It does a glory pan over like the effects of the edict.
Love it.
And yeah, it's really, really good. And you fight them in the environment. Like, so, the sky is on fire, and it's really atmospheric and cool.
Yes. And this takes you to an act break where the word of your deed spreads. Like the edict slowly dissipates, which is not something that ever happened under Kyros. Like Kyros didn't have any control over when these things ended.
Yeah, but this is your house. You do not want it to be lightning all the time.
Yeah.
So it dissipates because you are more powerful than Kyros because this is that game.
Yes. Yeah.
It feels very cool.
Taking us into Act 3.
Yep, which is incredibly short. So Fatebinder Callio appears at the spire with a couple of declarations from Kyros. You can be like, oh, you're going to kill me. Like this, the declaration is like to die. But it's not, because again, they leave that plausible deniability that all of this is part of Kyros' plan the whole time. Basically saying like, listen, I'm sick of this shit. Only one Archon is fit to rule the tiers. Whoever is the last surviving one is the one that is going to have power. Also, you're the newest Archon.
Yep.
So
you're in the running.
Yep. You're in the running. For keeping track, we have Graven Ash, Voice of Nera, you, Siren, and Tunin. And Bled Mark.
Yep.
Those are the Archons that are on display.
Yeah.
And that is what this contest is between.
Yeah. Because I was in good with Siren, I basically talked to her and she said, so are you going to be a problem here? She's like, no, you can roll this. This is not really my speed. So I'm not interested in ruling over this.
Yep. So it is time to take out the other Archons.
Yeah.
If you have sided with one of them, there is a whole bit about during your quest of this collecting evidence against them to present to Tunin.
Okay.
So while you're going through and going to these different areas, the Blade Grave and the Stalwart and such, you're collecting evidence of their misdeeds to use in the court. It's not your trial at the end. It's the trial of one of these, whichever Archon you have.
Nice.
And the big difference there is that if you've done that well enough, like let's say you allied with the disfavored, you can just have Blood and Mark go kill the Voices of Nera. You don't have to go do it.
Nice.
So if you're not doing this, but for us, we have to deal with them both.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty great. There's like a little experiment here. So like as we're trying to figure out, Callio says, just from my own curiosity, like, can I try to declare an edict? Like, you've been made an Archon for this. But like, is it something in the resonator or is it something in, and we actually like run a couple of these options. Like, no, it has to be me. It has to be the resonator. It has to be the spires.
Yeah, I did not allow this. I took that lesson from Kyros. I'm not going to share this power. There's no way in the universe someone else is going to talk to this resonator without getting kicked off of my spire.
I was curious. I had no idea. Like, it kind of came as a surprise to me and my character that I was an Archon now. So I was like, well, let's kick the tires on this. Worst thing that happens is he declares a bad edict and I kick him off the tower. It's fine.
So you get a letter from Blood and Mark. The original letter is very formal, like basically about the new status quo. But if you do the candlelight trick, basically says Tunin's planning to order your execution.
Right. Like,
you have stuck your head up too far. It's finally happened. If you don't want me to have to try to kill you, come talk to me before you follow the summons.
Yes. So you go there, and this is where you get the Edict of Nightfall. Like, this was cast like 6 centuries ago. It was one of the original edicts that Kyros put out there. It says, hey, if you cast it in a given region, you'll become unstoppable. So I was like, hey, yoink.
Yeah. And what this does is it makes the sun not come up. The area will slowly freeze. All the plants will die. All the animals will die.
Love it.
It is a very brutal edict.
Yeah.
I saved this for Kyros. I did not do this as the next one.
Yeah, no, I did. I did this as my ending. I was like, the sun will never rise on your empire, Kyros.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, you got to go. And he basically, this is where you can start talking to him to convince him to come along with you.
Yes.
You have to get Graven Ash and the Voices of Nera out of the way before you go to Tunon if you want to not fight Blood and Mark and have him join you. But basically, you can say like, hey, why not serve me instead? Like, I'm more fun. You can make that call, and depending on your approval, it changes the flavor of this boss fight that's coming up.
Yes.
In the next quest.
Yeah. So I had to go kill some generals.
Yeah, which both of these are fun.
Yeah, really like different boss fights. Good, well-designed boss fights. Yeah.
Yep. The first, and just visually really awesome. Like going to the Iron Halls where Graven Ash is. You have him sitting it, they're regimented. Yeah. His army, they're organized, and he's staying there sending battalions against you.
Yeah.
Waves and waves while he stands back and buffs them. Because that's his thing.
Yeah.
That's Graven Ash's thing. That's Graven Ash protects.
Right. Until ultimately he loses patience with you and comes down and joins the fight himself. Yeah. And by that point, he fights you alone.
Yeah. So you fight him. Once you take him out, he wants to have his ending monologue.
Of course.
It's basically a warning about like the he thought he was on a path, but he became corrupted. Like, this is how my protection worked. Generally, you have to have responsibility. Like, you're not rising to power alone. You have to actually do what I did and know that this is a coalition.
Yeah. Accept responsibility for the people that you pass as you rise to power.
Yeah. Then he dies in this blue flame, and all his men die too. Like the power that he had worked in reverse as well.
Yes.
This is great. Just visually really neat.
Well, and then you have to leave. You have to walk out of this empty camp.
Yeah. Really, really atmospheric and cool. And if you avoid any of the battles on the way there, those people are dead. You have died as well. I went back to my base to talk to Barrick, who is catatonic at this point and will not respond. And all of the companions are very concerned with him. They're like, hey, you doing okay, big guy? And he won't answer me. So there are ways to make him not fall into despair.
Okay.
With this. One of them is, getting rid of his armor helps him.
Okay.
With this, ultimately, once he will come around again. You convince him to clean up and kind of start his own life.
Yeah.
Finishing his quest after you've killed Graven Ash, which I didn't do this playthrough, but I've read about.
Yeah.
The other thing is if you bring him along with which you did.
Yes.
He will kind of advocate for different things and kind of try to make arguments on behalf. And depending on how you handle that and how kind you are to him in those moments, he can not fall into despair as well. Is my understanding.
I fucked it up. He fell into despair. Like it was like, you're not, thank you, your chain of command. You're not under him anymore. You're under me. This is what needs to happen for Kyros' rule. Yeah.
If you were with the disfavored through this whole thing, when you get to this point, you can go and you convince Graven Ash to be your subordinate. You basically say, like, listen, during this entire conquest, I have been your tool. What that means is that I have actually been doing the things. Like, I am actually the leader in action. Even if you're the leader in name, this is ridiculous. And he will step down and become your lieutenant.
Very cool.
At this point, which is a cool thing. Not nearly as cool as what happens with the Voices of Nerat, which I need to do. I have at least one more playthrough of this game with me because I have to do a Scarlet Chorus playthrough at some point.
Yeah.
Because this is so unbelievably cool.
I want to hear about it because I haven't read about it. So for me, one down, one more to go. Got to go to Cacophony, which is where the Scarlet Chorus retreated to back in I think this is in the Stone Sea. Right.
It's in the Stone Sea. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is, where the Voices of Nerat is. It's easy enough to get to him, but the battle against him, it was a pain. Because
he's summoning people he's eaten before.
Yes.
So like if you've done his backstory or if you've read about him, you've learned about these other archons and people that he's absorbed.
Yeah.
He teleports around and he brings them out, and they're all very powerful warriors.
Yeah. Constantly buffing himself. It's hilarious because it just for a moment grows to be about 3 times his normal size.
Yeah. Yep. But if you focus fire, you take him down. He tries to give you his final words as well. Like he talks about how he's so close, he was doing it. He was basically planning a coup.
Yeah.
This whole time, which you find out in his playthrough, but you could figure that out anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I did not give him the satisfaction.
No, plug my ears.
The last word. Yep.
Yeah. Just deny the psychic communication until he dies laughing in agony. So.
Yep.
Bye-bye, Joker.
Bye-bye, Joker. Bye-bye, Tyranny Joker. If you've been on his side, or if you do the Bastard Wound DLC, when you get to him, he demands, if you're on his side, he demands a sacrifice from one of your companions, which you have to do. Either he wants you to sacrifice yourself, you can give up one of your companions in your stead. If you have enough loyalty with them, they take over the voices of Nerat.
Oh.
And it becomes the voices of Barrack or the voices of Verse or the voices of Lantry.
What?
And they reform the entire organization in their image.
That is so cool.
It is so classic Obsidian.
Uh-huh.
Like, to me, like, that is such a, like, oh, that's Mask of the Betrayer shit.
Yeah.
That's the old good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not trapped in there with you. You're trapped in there with me.
Totally. And you can't do it yourself.
Right.
Like you have to, it's a way that the companion system in this works out in a way that you're doing something that's ultimately incredibly monstrous.
Yeah.
But you can be like, hey, trust me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I haven't done this. I just read it.
It seems like an incredibly cruel thing to do to Verse.
But it's good. Like she takes over.
Yeah.
Like they live there. Like Verse is into it. That's one of the things.
Well, she was so afraid of becoming like him. She didn't want to be a monster because she had seen, or Siren, right? Like, like they had all suffered under his yoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it's not, he doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Like they get rid of him, So like if you, it can become, like Verse basically makes the Scarlet Chorus like the Scarlet Chorus, but more so.
Yeah.
Lantry turns them into a group of librarian mages.
So good.
Barrack basically turns them into like the disfavored, like turns them into a regimented thing.
No creativity in Barrack.
No creativity. Yeah, Barrack. He deserved his horrible fate. Kills and Shadow turns them into these weird like stealth hunters.
Huh.
That end up becoming part of you. And the implication is, if you did these as, you're doing the Scarlet Chorus playthrough, and this is like, these are people under you. Like you're still loyal to Kyros in that ending, but you have this as your command.
It's like, I don't need this, unruly band of criminals. Like what I would really like is a ruly band of stealth assassins. Cool.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Really, really cool. And again, just like with, it is the payoff of the idea of the voices of Nerat.
Yeah.
As a thing. And the other reason, like the Scarlet Chorus playthrough that's really cool is like a lot of these people, you don't go and kill them, you like kidnap them.
Mm-hmm.
Like instead of you kidnap Graven Ash's daughter and feed it to the Scarlet Chorus.
Yeah.
Like, put it into the voices of Nerat. Like it feels like the most evil of all the different paths.
Well, yeah, because you're reaping souls.
Yeah, exactly. You're doing a bunch of soul reaping. Like it's very classic Obsidian.
Yeah.
Stuff. Really, really neat. If you're playing the indie path that we did, you just have to kill him.
Yeah.
But if you do the Bastard's Wound, you can send Verse into him and have Verse take over.
Nice.
Here. So incredibly cool.
Yeah. But yeah, like, so the two major, the two most active Archons are down, and really it's down to just you, Tunon, and Blade and Mark at the end of this. You go back to Ashwield, and this is an articulation point. I had enough favor with him that he actually gave me his dagger and says, you take this, we're in together, and I will appear at the right time.
Yeah, I'll back you.
Yes.
I'll back your play.
Yeah.
So I had that. I managed to succeed at that. You go to Tunan's court, for, he thanks you for coming, but this is a trial.
Yeah.
This is a dialogue boss battle that does not have to end in a fight. The first time I did it, it did not. I succeeded. This time I fucked up. I know where I fucked up.
Yeah, I'm curious because I fucked up as well. This ended in a fight. It was a good fight, but like I'd read about other ways that this could go, where you can basically outlaw Tunon so hard that he is compelled into following you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Basically, you're the stenographer now. I'm the lawyer. He is basically calls you to an account for the entire actions of your game.
It's like the end of The Walking Dead season 1.
Yeah. It's this happens in, again, Neverwinter Nights 2.
Yes.
Like direct Obsidian, lineage for this. Not the end of Neverwinter Nights 2, but in the middle of that relatively mediocre game. Really, really neat just to be like, hey, listen, I know what you've been doing. These are all the laws you've broken. And there's a lot of different, this is very complicated. So you can have character witnesses. Any companions that have enough approval will give you a full-throated defense. So that's things that give you justice points. Yeah. For this.
This is I couldn't bring Siren for this because she didn't like me enough. So I was like, okay, I'll bring Verse. She'll be the person who actually makes the thing. If you bring Siren, it's kind of like the form response that an employer who doesn't like you would give to a reference. Like, yes, I worked with the Archon of Spires from date to date, and that is all I will confirm.
It depends on the approval. Like she was way into me.
Yeah.
I had big Siren approval. You want to bring 3 people with approval to get those points. You also want to have good approval with the other Fate Binders. Yeah. Because they are like kind of like a Greek chorus during this and will back up your like site precedent for you.
Oh, I had none of them on my side. No, there was no other Fate Binder there. And also I brought Barrick, and Tunon was like, and does the armored man have anything to say? And
I'm so sad.
He doesn't say anything. He just stands there silently. He's like, moving on.
Oh, well, fuck. This didn't work out.
Nope.
Don't bring the heavily depressive golem there. So at this point I was still doing good. I had all 3 of my companions gave big defense for me, and I had Fate Binders on my side. And then he calls out all these individual things like, hey, why did you betray the Order of the Archons?
They gave you particular orders in chapter 1, and what you're trying to do is minimize wrath and maximize favor with Tunon himself in order to influence the outcome. And to even get to this point on the anarchy path, you basically have to say, if you kill me without a trial, that's not lawful. Like, I have a right to a defense. So, okay, here we go. We're going to do this.
Yep. So you basically have to kind of play him, as to his what it would appeal to him.
Yeah. So basically, you're making up these post hoc justifications to basically say, like, I violated the letter. I held to the spirit, the letter of the law, but didn't hold to the spirit. Right.
Yes. And that's what works with him.
Yeah.
As far as looking at the thing I fucked up on is I didn't say I would return the Magebane helm.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what he wants. I said that I would, I was like, no, like as a issue of the court, this is mine. And he's like, it's explicitly not, you know, like you were forbidden. That's actually not true. And I was like, well, shit, you know, and then one of the Fate Binders was like, actually, sorry, Fate Binder, that's not true. And as far as I know, I think I was like 1 point away from getting it this time. I think that was the point I missed.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. It's hard to do that. Yeah. He also, this is the other thing I did, and you did this as well, looking at the notes, is he doesn't like you not killing the baby to end the Edict of Storms. And he wants you to say, again, kind of play dumb, like, oh, I did the edict. Yeah. But I said, like, hey, that proves that Kyros is fallible, thinking like,
no, you don't blaspheme Kyros in front of
no. And not because he cares about Kyros, because if you do this right, he will join you. It's because it's against the law. Yeah. Like they talked about earlier on, you can talk to him and learn about how naming your kid Kyros is illegal, and that like using Kyros' name in a falsehood is illegal. So you can be like, by Kyros, that guy's an idiot. And then if somebody proved that guy isn't an idiot, you get put to death. So you can say it, but it has to be true. Like you cannot have falsehoods associated with Kyros. It's against the law. So he doesn't care because of Kyros, because the first time I played this, I did all these things right. And he's like, well, you know what? You play a good game. You steam a good ham. I'm on your side. And he became my, like, Archon of Justice. But in this playthrough, I had to fight him.
Yeah. Like you make your final defense. And there's an element of this, and I like the subtlety to it, where it kind of seems like you're just flattering him. Like you can get by flattering him. So like when he confronts you about taking the Silent Archive instead of burning it, like you can gain favor by saying that only an agent of the court could hold it responsibly.
Yeah.
And that seems like it's just flattery, but no, it's actually like still within the law that you got around it. Like taking the Silent Archive was not as bad. It was not as disfavorable as say warning the sages before you cast the edict. Right. So like all of this adds up. Like this is incredibly complex. Like I went and looked for broad, I like basically like a dissection of the matrix that rests behind this. And all I could ever find were like broad summaries of ways that this can turn out. Like the rebel path can articulate in such a way that he says, I can't believe that you have stood up against Kyros, all this time and worked with these. And like, this is a point where you can betray all of the people who helped you in the rebellion by saying like, yeah, no, I just did that to get them on my side. And now we can knock them down one by one. And to tune on, he's angry that you broke the law, but this is ultimately serving the broader mission of Kyros that he ends up siding with you anyway. So like, this is a way that the rebellion pathway can turn bad is what I read about.
Yeah. There's a lot of different ways it can go. Yeah. Basically. Really, really cool. I love dialogue boss fights.
Yes.
So much. One of my favorite, Fallout 2, like one of my favorite things that can happen. This is one of the highlights.
Yes. One of my favorite moments, and I had done this glare silently choice enough that this popped up. Like he calls me out for being tight-lipped by saying like, oh, you remained infuriatingly silent when it would befit you to speak, and you can gain favor by saying, oh, it's effective to to stay silent and let people speak to incriminate themselves.
Yeah, I learned it from you, Dad.
A little bit. Well, you can say that. You can do I learned it from you, Dad. I read about this. Yeah, like you can respond just with silence, or you can say I saw it from you, and then he doesn't have a response to that. He just stays silent, and then somebody else in the court says, like father, like son, basically.
Yeah.
Something I like about this, coming from a law enforcement family, staying silent and letting people talk to incriminate themselves is exactly something that people do. It's a real tactic.
Yeah, ripped from the headlines. Tyranny.
Yeah.
Just incredibly cool. Another thing that I'm looking at the notes here, another misstep I had was his final question is like, how premeditated was this?
Yeah.
Like, did you join the conquest in order to subvert it? And I said, no. I saw that they were going to be idiots. And he's like, well, why didn't you tell me? Like that incriminates yourself. It sounds innocuous. The writing in this game is such that you can make something that sounds good. And then when somebody turns it around on you, they're not wrong.
Yeah. Well, when you say it like that.
Exactly. It's like, oh, like I thought this was going to be a good boy point, but it's a bad boy point.
Yeah.
Again, just very deft. Deft stuff. So at this point I was declared guilty. He summons Blood Mark to execute me, but Blood Mark tries to execute him and fails.
Yes.
So I don't know if this has a mechanical effect.
I don't either.
It seems like it should.
It's pretty horrifying because like Tunon banishes him. He makes Mark dissolve into shadow in the floor. So it can't be good. It's implied that he's still alive after this, but
yeah. It's no good. And this is the end boss.
Yeah.
And this is really hard. I found this really hard. He does status effects. He could set all my guys on fire at once.
Yep.
That's no good.
Yeah.
He's extremely tough.
Just a massive.
If I did not have a dedicated healer, I'd have a really hard time with this.
Oh yeah. Lantry was on full-time duty here with this.
Yep.
I used a lot of potions on this. It was a big deal. Just had that AoE stone eruption attack that just wrecked me every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's really nasty. But you kill him. He talks about how he's outrun death and natural laws for too long. He's been artificially lived, and he's like inhuman at this point. Like he's 9 feet tall. He's got these masks fused to his face. Like as you become an Archon, you become less human as things go on.
He's also the oldest of Kyros's Archons.
Yes. Yeah. And you just killed him, and Lantry fucking grows a 10-foot boner about it. It's very charming. Lantry is so happy.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, well, look what we did. Like, he's very happy.
Yep.
Everybody loves my bullshit.
Yeah.
After I do this.
Tunon though, he kind of takes a poop in the punch bowl on that though. There's not a lot of time to celebrate because Kyros has sent an army, more fearsome than even the disfavored of the Scarlet Chorus, to squash me. Basically saying like, yeah, the conquest has proceeded, but, you're not going to be able to stand against them because, it's just too much.
No more playing small ball.
Right.
So he says, bend the knee, essentially. That's what he did. If you find out his backstory, that is how he rose. He negotiated for peace from the Bastard City and saved tons of people's lives and became this creature.
Yes.
Of Kyros.
Yeah. But my power is unique. It is too much of a threat, so I gotta go. And Tunon goes away, turns into a statue, falls to the ground, and shatters, which is a fate befitting.
Yep. So you can, at this point, if you want to, you can bend the knee to Kyros if you play as a Kyros Laureus. As you mentioned, that was patched in. A lot of people did not like that you couldn't do that. Right. But
fuck that.
Yeah, why bend the knee?
Yeah.
Like, who's bending the knee in games? I'm running this tabletop game with my tabletop group, and like, I know they weren't going to do it, but having a character, apply power to them is the number one way to galvanize them into doing anything.
Yep.
Like, telling somebody they have to do something will make them do everything they possibly can to not do it and make that person a permanent enemy.
Backlash effect, man. Yeah.
Totally. Like, and it's real.
Come and take it.
So when I get this, and I'm like, yeah, fuck this. This guy's got to go.
Yeah. Yeah, so I returned to the Spire and, I just did a little bit testing. You can say I declare myself, I declare fealty, etc. I selected the entire Northern Empire and I declared an Edict of Nightfall. Again, the sun never sets, no, the sun never rises.
Yeah. Yep, no more sun.
Brings ruin to the Empire.
And for the very first time, Kyros retreats. He has to go and do damage control. Yeah. So the idea is not that you've won. The idea is that, like, you're a threat. Yeah. Which, again, I keep saying it. Give me fucking Tyranny too.
Yeah.
Like, this path, this story being continued, that is like the war I'm waging against Kyros is so cool.
Yeah. Like, all of this effort to make something that has never happened before happen, which is you make Kyros flinch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, that's the start of something. That's not the end of something.
Yeah. But it still works as like kind of a prelude, as a game. I'm glad this game is 25 hours long and designed to be replayed and ends with this incredibly compelling, like, fuck yes. Like, let's do that. Even if it never gets paid off, I'm still pretty happy about it. Yeah. I hope it does, though. I would love a Tyranny too. I don't know how well this sold.
Yeah.
So who can tell? And what that means by, B tier Obsidian standards. So,
yeah. So my warpath has fucked everything up. Every single power structure that was in place before I got here has been uprooted, and the region has fallen into utter chaos and infighting.
Yeah. Yeah, so. It doesn't necessarily end well. It is hard to keep together, which I read as not a condemnation of an independent path so much as setup for intrigue for the status quo that you'd take into a sequel or take into a continuation of the story.
Yeah.
And this is not uniform. Like, being independent doesn't make everything fall into chaos.
Right.
There are ways to have kind of more and less lawful results of this, but I had similar things. Like, you get your ending slides, your classic Fallout ending slides, and like things are not great.
No.
There it is that, so I think the other thing too is that, like, they need to undercut the idea that Kyros, they didn't want to tell you that, like, oh, you won. Kyros retreated. It's like, no, you have troubles on the home front. This is a campaign.
Yeah.
This would be hard.
And, like the people who were talking about it, like Kyros, there was something to it that, everything was infighting in the tiers before Kyros showed up. That's what you're returning it to.
The Kyros' peace is a thing.
Yes.
Even if it is brutal and evil, it's real. So you get your endings for your companions. The Barrack one that we both got is incredibly tragic.
Yeah.
He never wakes up from his fugue state. He does not know how to live in a post-Graven Ash world.
Right. So he just goes to a crossroads and stands there until he rusts into a statue.
Yep, lets himself rust.
Yeah.
And be a skeleton inside a suit of armor. Incredibly sad.
Yeah.
Verse became a leader of kind of a mercenary group called the Callous Sisterhood, who it was implied, like, I use her as a tool. Here I got that same ending. Our endings diverge here in a little bit, but my early ones are similar.
Yeah. Lantry was in good with me. He served as my court chronicler until the very end. And basically, like, he, I didn't say, hey, you're old, you need to like go retire and rest, but it was, kind of unspoken, and that's the way it worked out.
Yep. Ebb, which I never used in this playthrough,
right.
Goes off to try to rebuild the School of the Tidecasters, but fails.
Right.
Gets frustrated being unable to teach anybody of that magic, and eventually just becomes a lone person, unable to find an apprentice.
Yep.
Kills in Shadow, who was on my side, went under my direction, went and hunted down all of the remaining disfavored. I want to mention this: the disfavored were the people who killed her tribe.
Okay.
Her original tribe.
Yeah.
So I sent her out as basically a boogeyman to kill any remaining disfavored in my land.
Nice.
Yep.
Personal boogeyman. For me, she just returned to her tribe and went wild again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, Siren, I think that maybe this is a result of not necessarily having her favorite very high. She goes quiet. She actually leaves my service after a little while, and has taken a vow of silence. She's not using her powers to sway people, but she has kind of gone to a mountainside temple and has assembled a small group of followers just basically on the strength of her piety alone, not by using her Archon powers.
Yeah, she stuck around with me, and yeah, basically was just kind of part of my whole deal.
Yeah.
She's hard to gain favor with. Mm-hmm. She's not,
there are a few opportunities that I found really.
Well, she also ends up fairly under leveled, which is interesting. She was at level 15 or 16 compared to a lot of people who are at level 18, 19 in the game. So there's also the final little note is that there is a new game plus for this that is kind of interesting, which is you're allowed to keep kind of limited stuff from playthrough to playthrough. So you get to keep your money and most of your normal equipment, but artifacts and relics and things, you have to choose.
Yeah.
What you have, what you get to keep, and you run into special merchants that will sell you things from previous playthroughs that you found. Nice. But generally, it is just a new game plus. So you can do it to maximum of 9. Who's doing that? This is a weird game for that. It's a strange thing. Not because of bad, but I can't imagine.
Yeah, I can't put myself in the headspace, but there are a lot of people out there.
Yeah. Yep. And that's Tyranny.
That's Tyranny. I don't know that I have an awful lot to say. Just I would like more of it. I want more stuff in this world. I would like more stuff. Even just if they turned it into a PDF of a source book, that would be pretty cool. Having played through all of it, which I hadn't at the point that we recorded the first half of this, when we recorded part 1, I can now see, just areas where it was unfinished. I can see just whole quest lines and stuff that they had to cut off, or storylines that they had to cut off. I think they handled it in a gracious way, right? Where they used that to build mystery and left enough of it to your imagination that it was satisfying. But yeah, I think that it does show that this is, kind of an incomplete thing, and that works a little bit, against it. However, what's here is still really enjoyable, it's good stuff. It just makes me kind of sad about what could have been,
It certainly works against it. It just works less against it than one might think.
Yes.
Is kind of what I think. I think that they did, as far as a game being edited or scaled down, they did such an admirable job of making the kind of dangling threads really pretty more fascinating than frustrating.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like there are plot holes in it. It feels like it's a prologue. This is the first book in a 5-book fantasy series is what it feels like.
Yeah.
And there are threads, there are things that reach forward to it. There's so much world building and detail here that is extremely strong, and the moment to moment writing is very strong in a way that just it matters, right? I talk about that all the time on the show. Writing matters in a game. Having non-embarrassing dialogue, having characters not turn into weird robots.
Yeah.
Something I was mentioning, how you have that that character who you can say hey, I feel like in a lesser game, you do that side quest, that widow side quest.
Yeah.
It would be a Vorpal thing to say oh, you want me to investigate your wife's murder? I saw you fighting. And then that would be the end of it. You'd be okay, you passed the skill check to say you saw them fighting. Therefore you've subverted the quest. To have a character again lie to you, which I know I brought up in the last episode, but be no, couples fight, idiot. We're in the real world. There's a sense of reality and groundedness to this that is uncommon in the genre and in video games that makes that unfinished nature and all those dangling threads like just feel really good.
Yeah.
Like they land it.
Mm-hmm.
It pulls off. It's not perfect. Like the combat needs to be significantly better. It doesn't have, it's a short game in a way that like, those middle dungeons that you spend do feel padding.
Mm-hmm.
Like padding-y, like, the old walls feel like padding.
Yeah.
The DLC does not finish the story. Like there are flaws to it, but it is really, really pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
It is in like the CRPG legend tier of the show. Like, is it Witcher 3 or Baldur's Gate 2? No.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really up there. It's really good.
I mean, it's like it's still a rare thing, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have played the heights of this genre, like if you are down for the particular kind of flavor that we talk up on the show quite a bit, it's kind of like vent crawlers. Even a middle tier one is still an extremely rare specimen, so it's worth looking into. The treasures.
And any like B game Obsidian,
mm-hmm.
It's similar to like when people talk about like FromSoft games where they're like, yeah, even though this isn't as good, like it's still better than most games. Like people who don't like Dark Souls 2
mm-hmm.
will say that about Dark Souls 2. Like, yeah, this is still, it's not a great Dark Souls game, but still a really great game.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that way about like B tier Obsidian stuff too, where it's like the bar is really pretty low. For this kind of like writing in games and world building, like there's a lot of just like dumb stuff we're expected to accept
mm-hmm.
and just clunky choices.
Yeah.
Like the longer I play it, the more I've been more into Jade Empire. Like it gets better as you go, but playing it right after this was a shock.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, I'm the fated one and everyone is so like in Tyranny, when a character tells me how awesome I am
mm-hmm.
In it is a source of joy.
Yeah, because it's citing work you've already done.
It's citing work that I've done as the player that is supported by the narrative and is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Early on in Jade Empire, you do a sparring match against a mini boss,
mm-hmm.
and your teacher literally says, "Why not go around and talk to your companions to get congratulated?" Which you do, and they all say you were awesome for like button mashing your way through that combat. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't feel good. It's sloppy.
Right. Yeah.
Like there is. I feel like Obsidian, like even when they're not at their best, are just working on a different level
mm-hmm.
than most game developers.
Yeah.
And it's the place between those two things, the way those things feel. That is the space in between there is the articulation point in which these people are doing incredibly good work.
Yes.
And this is even, I keep saying B tier. This is like B plus tier. Like it's still really good.
Yeah.
So just because you're not Torment doesn't mean, you can't compare everything to Torment.
No. Yeah, that's a perfect way to be unhappy with every video game you ever play.
Exactly. So really good game. Very, very excited about it. Really, really happy about it. Thank you. I think David Poole for suggesting it.
Believe so. Yeah.
Thank you, David. The next episode we're going to be talking about Jade Empire,
mm-hmm.
as we mentioned, which I'm coming to enjoy a little bit. Like it's a different thing. It's sloppier,
mm-hmm.
but it's not like I don't think it's going to be like a crucifixion or anything.
No.
It's not going to be a takedown. It's
mm-hmm.
just, it's a messy game.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about that, and then we will have our dispatch. If you have anything to say about Tyranny or Jade Empire, hit us up at Duckfeed.tv/contact by the 15th of December.
Yes. Same thing in January for January's games. The 15th of January will be the deadline for those responses for the dispatch episode. A little bit of a switch around. We're going to be we're going to be broadcasting the Portland Retro Games Expo episode about hidden gem games first that month, and then doing Dusk, which you should play because it's amazing, and then the Cat Lady, which you should play because it's very, very good, and then we're going to be going on to Shadowrun as our premium episode that month.
Dragonfall, which you should play because it's very, very good.
Yes, we
have a banger January. We're doing we're switching those around just to give ourselves some extra time for one of our other shows,
mm-hmm.
which we have, which is Bonfireside Chat. If you're a patron, if you go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv, at $5 a month you get all those episodes. We're covering Blasphemous. We're starting that soon, and we want some extra time to play it.
Oh, and also I don't know about you, I don't want to record the week of Christmas if I can. Well,
that's true. There's also the holiday that's happening, and Duckstream.
Yes,
which is also happening, which is a lot of preparation and everything. That's the weekend of the 20th. There's also a little switch for that.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, Duckstream West Coast has gone first. Mm-hmm. This time we're going second.
Yeah.
But tune in to that. There'll be a Duckfeed.tv/Duckstream is where you'll find that information. Mm-hmm. All proceeds go, as always, to the Transactive Gender Center here in Portland, Oregon.
Yep.
Consistently one of the highlights of my year. A really, really fun time. So
good time. Yeah.
Really, really good.
Cool. I'm trying to think of other admin stuff. There's just the usual, patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. This has been an amazing year for the Patreon. It's crazy that we're coming up to the end of it. But I'm super grateful for all your support. And, we're going to continue trying to bring it.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. I think we're doing good work now, and we're only able to really do that because of your support.
Yes.
So we appreciate its continued support. And we will see you in a week with Jade Empire, and that is a premium episode for this month.
Yes.
So that the full episode is for patrons. Everybody gets generalities. If you want to hear the whole thing, and it'll be a spicy one. It's a long game.
Yeah.
The manageable part of manageable WRPGs is a lowercase m.
It's still in context.
Yeah, still in context. So you'll want to hear that though, and you can do that by being a patron. And until next time, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
What should they watch out for?
They should watch out for appreciation because it's too much.
And permanent nightfall.
Of course.
Oh, hello, Pocket. Pocket, come on, dude. Sorry.
Sorry.
Pocket, stop. I know.